Where are the low-value men?
The hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site. If you can believe that, you can believe that, you can believe that.
Contracted COVID, but says with a mixture of medicines, including the controversial horse dewormer that has poisoned hundreds of people nationwide, he's now recovered.
He was the best guy around.
What about the people he murdered?
What murder?
From the headlines to the whisper star, low value mail, we'll hit the mark. Low value mail at 9 o'clock. Where truth and fiction take a walk.
Why don't you swear on the Bible that you walked on the moon? You're a coward and a liar and a thief.
Our stories are.
What's up, everybody? What's up to the Scroats? Welcome back to an all-new episode of Low Value Mail. It's actually episode number 150. Whoa, can you believe it? We've done 150 episodes. Well, we've actually done 149 episodes of Low Value Mail. I shouldn't jinx this, by the way, because I might get some technical difficulties. It's not lagging, is it? That's pretty good. So welcome back. I know it's a Thursday. It's at 7 p.m. Eastern. You guys are like, what the hell's going on? I had a show on Monday night, a stand-up comedy thing, and I couldn't make it. And it was kind of last minute, and I wanted to do the episode this week. So we're trying this. To be honest, I'm not going to lie to you. The earlier I could do this show, the better. So we'll see how this does. If this honestly... Because, like, I go Monday, 9 p.m., I'm literally going up against Kill Tony. I know it's not good. I realize the fact that for the success of the show, going up against the most popular live podcast in the world, probably not a good idea. So, but yeah, I mean... I would love to be able to do stand-up comedy on Monday nights, and I'm constantly having to turn shit down. So who knows? Maybe this is a huge success. Maybe you guys like this more than doing shows at 9 p.m. Who knows? Maybe we turn this into like a drive time comedy show. Slab says nobody watches Kill Tony. Disagree, Slab. Slab, you have some of the most idiotic takes on earth. Joining me on this episode... is somebody I actually know personally. I knew him in Toronto when I lived there. He was doing stand-up comedy for like a very short period of time, but I met him there. His name's Sia Savafi. He is an Iranian former political prisoner. He's got a crazy story. And he's going to be joining me because, you know, obviously Iran is big in the news right now. Now, he is not... If you thought I was bringing on some dude who's just like, I love the Ayatollah, this is not that episode, unfortunately. You're not going to get that episode. I don't think he likes the Ayatollah. I don't think he's a big fan. I believe he could tell us a story, but I believe he was tortured by the Iranian government. So we'll talk to him. Again, this is a special installment of Low Value Mail. Things are going to be a little extra low value this evening. Mark, our producer Mark, he last minute, he had some family shit. He's not able to make the show. So, and I was like, I don't want to cancel the show again. So I will be doing it old school. I will be manning the phone lines myself, which is going to be a fucking disaster. I'm going to try. I don't even remember how to do it, to be honest. But that means that you can't call in and get put in a queue. It's the old way where you just have to call a million times and hope I pick up. I know it's not ideal. It's just for this week, but it's the only way I can do it. I can't put people in a queue because I'm hosting the show, right? So I can't do that, unfortunately. So anyways, if you want to get through, if you have a question, you know, obviously I'm going to talk for a bit, then we're going to do some open lines. If you want to get through, Just literally keep calling. Just hang up and just keep calling. Shout out to Eddie Grimm, giving out 5 low-value mail gift memberships. Shout out, Eddie. You're the man. Juski, Paulina, Trent Ruth, Cynthia, and AH all received one. Thanks, man. Dylan Farnham says, I was reading the guest's Twitter feed. By chance, is he afraid of roofs? No, I do not believe he is a homosexual. But you can ask him that. But I'm pretty sure he's fucking getting in there with women. Anyways, and if you want to support the show, patreon.com/low-value-mail, MAIL. All right, so Iran is the big topic du jour. That means of the day. That's what that means. We'll talk about that. And then we will, we're going to have Sia at the top of the hour, 8 p.m. Eastern. And let me know what you think of this time slot. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Comment below. Let me know. So the Ayatollah, in case you guys are wondering how things are going in Iran, Ayatollah Khomeini tweeted today, the Islamic Republic delivered a heavy slap to the U.S.'s face. It attacked and inflicted damage on the Al Udeid Air Base, which is one of the key U.S. bases in the region. So a big W for Iran. Big W. Look at that. If you ask them, that dude is Ayatollah, man. That guy talks so much shit, man. That guy's whole Twitter is just like, yeah, nice try, but we fucking beat your ass. And you're like, did you? Are things going well for Iran? I guess they have to pretend. I guess, you know, if you're getting your ass kicked, you got to be like, totally fine. Nothing happened. It just felt like, you know, nothing at all. Now, this thing has so many moving parts. It's honestly difficult for me to discuss. I felt like I can't just not talk about it, but there is so much going on. So, you know, to the point of, did the U.S. blow up Iran's nuke sites or did they not? Like, that was a big point of contention all week, right? Like, if you ask Iran, CNN, New York Times, it was a mere flesh wound. No damage done. They go, you set us back a couple months. No biggie. Total waste of time. Trump and Israel obviously said that they pushed around shit in. And I don't know if you've ever had your shit pushed in. I've had my shit pushed in. If you know that reference, good for you. Now, obviously, the Trump administration, there's no way in hell they're ever going to be like, yeah, we bombed the shit out of them. It was total disaster, complete failure. The last thing they need is just to be like egg on their face. And I mean, again, the worst thing is for them to be like, yeah, we got to go back. Sorry. We fucked up. We got to go back. I was kind of doing some quick math on this thing. This cost $500 million. $500 million roughly. And if you're an American that pays taxes, couldn't have done it without you. Thank you for your service. Man, how sick is it for America? They go, America just has so much money. There's so much money here where they go, yeah, we're just going to go like, quick 36-hour trip to Iran and just drop $500 million. They probably could have caused more chaos in Iran if they just dropped $500 million of U.S. cash on the ground. Like if they just had a bunch of cargo planes just drop 500 million ones. I mean, think of the damage they could have done if they just dropped $500 million worth of pennies everywhere. And there's not that many Jews in Iran anymore, so who knows what would happen there. But I will say it is weird that CNN and New York Times both were reporting the mission unsuccessful. They were like, without knowing 100%, they were just like, yeah, we read some intel report. It was low confidence. And they're just like, we're just going to report this as the news. Didn't do shit. It's almost like they want Trump. I mean, again, it's obviously clear they hate Trump. They want him to fail. But you're like, what are you goading him into just bombing Iran again? What do you want, boots on the ground? I mean, CNN does want boots on the ground because that's fucking big money for them. That is, they want another, CNN more than anybody just wants a forever war. They can get Anderson Cooper, just get his fucking little twink ass out in Tehran to just kind of report on the whole thing and just rake in tons of cash as everybody's watching this shit. Now, I said on the last episode of this show, which if you haven't seen, it was maybe the greatest episode of this show ever. Don't expect, I literally ended last week's episode and I was like, man, we got to do that more often. But it's hard because obviously if this becomes some sort of like Ali G gotcha thing, well, then people just watch the show and they go, I'm not going on here. I know what this is. But it was a good time. But look, last week I said that I felt personally that Israel was actually doing America's dirty work. Now, I know a lot of you disagree. They go, the popular thing right now is obviously to say that America is completely captured by Israel and just does whatever Israel wants, right? And no question Israel wanted this. I do not doubt for 1 second, because a lot of people would play the clips of Netanyahu post 9/11 when they were talking about Iraq, and everybody's like, see, Netanyahu wanted America to fucking bomb the shit out of Iraq. And you're like, yeah, obviously he would want that. Why the hell would he not want that? And they're like, well, that's proof that he made them do it. And he's like, no, I mean, we've all been to a bar and, you know, some guy you don't like, some dude who banged your fucking ex-girlfriend. And then your friend's like, yo, that guy looked at me weird. And he goes, yeah. And he also called you gay. Go beat the shit out of him. I didn't necessarily put him up to it, but I'm not hating it either. Right? But this wasn't some rash decision. I didn't know this until maybe an hour ago when I was doing some research on this. America has been working on this. I don't know how many of you know this. America has been working on this specific plan to bomb the Iranian nuclear sites for 15 years. 15 years. Since literally the early days of the Obama administration, America has spent countless of your tax dollars. Oh my God. If you thought the $500 million to go do the thing was expensive, man, they have spent billions and billions of your hard-earned money. And again, thank you for that. I know Vince didn't appreciate it with his super chat that says, you want to go home or you want to go to jail? Neither. I am home. 15 years. I had no idea about this. They literally designed the GBU 57 bunker buster that they used specifically for this mission. They have had people working on this shit, basically looking at, you know, I don't know exactly how it works, but I watched some high-level military dude give a press conference. And he was literally like, we've been working on this for 15 years. We've been monitoring it. We've been watching them bring in all the shit. He's like, they only would build a centrifuge in a mountain for one reason only. The only reason you do that is to make nukes. He's like, we've been working on the best way to basically blow this shit up. We didn't have the technology to do that. So then they basically contracted Boeing to design these bunker buster missiles specifically for this. And they've been doing it for 15 years. So for people to be like, yeah, you know, Israel just randomly just started shooting up Iran and then dragged America into it. America's been gunning for this since time, as the Canadians, the Torontonians would say, from time, since time. They've been gearing for this forever, okay? 15 fucking years. And it really shows you the difference it makes in who is the president of the United States. Because Biden could have easily given the go-ahead 8 months ago for this, but just way out of his league. Way out of his league. He would rather just give them pallets of cash and be like, hey, just come on, man. Literally, he would have been like, come on, man. Do not do this. Trump's just like, yo, we've been working on this for 15 years. Let's fucking do this. Like, we got all this stuff. Let's go. They apparently tested these bunker buster missiles. The guy was saying hundreds of times. They cost $3.5 million for each one of these bombs. And that's not like other auxiliary costs. Doesn't count the or the whatever B-2 bombers, stealth bombers. Doesn't count any of that shit. Just the bomb. 3.5 million a piece. They tested hundreds of these things. You can do the math of how much money that is. I would love to just watch them fucking test the bunker buster bombs. That would be sick, man. It's just they should live stream that shit. I know it's probably a national security risk or whatever. But so to say America is doing Israel's dirty work is insane. Like literally insane. It's clearly the other way around. I know a lot of your brains are so rotted that you just cannot fathom this, but it seems clear to me that's what happened. I mean, especially in light of the 15 years developing this bomb for this specific thing. This wasn't just Trump woke up and we're bombing Iran. This is going all the way back to Obama. They've been working on this for a long time. Long time, right? Very interesting. Now, a lot of people with this whole Iran stuff made a lot of predictions before this all started. Not I. I'm generally fairly remiss to make predictions. The only thing I did say is I said that there wouldn't be U.S. boots on the ground in Iran. So far, so good. I still don't think they're doing that. Trump is just, he's been so critical of Iraq and just the idea of doing that. I just cannot see him doing an about face. Unless, of course, his handlers in Israel say, we have a couple videos of you getting pissed on, Mr. Trump. Send in the troops. And look, there were people, we all know them, we see them on Twitter, who are understandably concerned that this would start World War III. And it was completely unnecessary for the U.S. to be involved at all. But when has necessity or necessariness, I don't know what I'm trying to say here, when has that ever mattered to America? Since when does America care what's necessary? Right? They don't care. They got all this money to spend. And look, we've been getting promised World War III forever. They've been promising us for a while. People said bombing Iran means no chance of peace talks ever. But now it looks like the U.S. and Iran are actually going to negotiate. They've been working on it. Apparently, it might be done deal in a couple of weeks. There might be a deal, essentially, and it's funny how much money talks, because they're just like, yo, we'll give you tons of money. Just fucking chill, Iran. And Sia could come on. He probably knows a lot more about this than I do. I don't know a ton about this. I'm not going to lie about that. But it does seem a bit of art of the deal here. They were like, yo, you can have the $6 billion that we haven't let you had. You can have sanctions. I mean, it is crazy. Iran with 90 million people. Apparently they have like $27 trillion worth of natural resources. Natural resources. $27 trillion. Their per capita GDP is like $4,500 a person. They're not doing great. They're not doing great at all. And it's only because they have all these sanctions placed on them. They have the world's third largest oil reserve. And again, that country could be fucking like Saudi Arabia or Qatar if they just weren't run by the fucking Ayatollah, who apparently Trump calls the Cryatollah, which is an amazing nickname. And he might also have Israel-Gaza wrapped up in 2 weeks. So we'll see. These are two huge maybes. But Trump, you can go without saying, Trump has done more in 6 months than Biden did in 4 years. Easy. We're just beginning. All right, I'm going to talk about this fucking New York City mayor thing quickly, and then we're going to open up the phone lines. Again. Mark is not here. So if you want to call in, I'm doing it the old way. There's no queue. I will just pick up whoever's the first to call in. So if you don't call in, keep calling back. Just keep trying, and I will do my best. But it's not going to be as good as normal. So a goddamn commie he's not the mayor of New York City yet, but he is considered to be the next mayor. The betting markets have him in favor. I don't understand why people hate Eric Adams so much. And also, look, I'll preface this by saying most of you don't live in New York, don't give a shit about New York. You might go so far as hate New York. And you would probably, many of you would take great pleasure in this city turning to an absolute piece of shit by electing some leftist mayor. I understand that. I understand that many of you are haters and wish nothing but bad things for New York City. Understandable. I completely get it. It's not a done deal yet. The election is actually in November, although nobody really seems to bring that up. There's probably a lot of people, a lot of uninformed voters who love Mamdani, who are just like, he's the mayor now. You're like, no, he's not the mayor. I saw many people being like, congratulations for becoming the mayor. You're like, he's not the mayor. The election's in November. Tennessee Congressman Andy Ogles tweeted today, Zoran Little Muhammad Mamdani is an anti-Semitic, socialist, communist who will destroy the great city of New York. He needs to be deported, which is why I'm calling for him to be subject to denaturalization proceedings. Now, if you're a Republican, this is literally the playbook for how you lose all your power. What a crazy fucking thing to post. Calling him Little Muhammad is crazy, right? Like, again, this guy's not an Islamist. He's just Muslim. And sure, I can understand where everybody's like, the Muslims did 9/11, and now they're going to have 25 years later a Muslim mayor, first Muslim mayor of the city, even though we all know the Jews did it. Right. But a crazy thing to post. Again, you are asking to lose all your power by just being like, can't have a Muslim in charge. Guys, this isn't the America that your fucking parents grew up in. Different game now. Totally different game. I'm sure a lot of you would like it to be the America your parents grew up in, but it's not. And it's not going back to that. I have bad news for you. It is not going back. And look, I'll admit I'm not super dialed into local politics. I just live my life. And as long as things are working fairly reasonably, I have no complaints. I don't know. And honestly, New York is fine. Yes, the rents here are absurd, but space is limited and people for some reason want to move here, myself included. Like I don't think you can comprehend how absurd rents are. They just came out with, rents across the world. New York City is by far the most expensive city in the world to live in. Like by far. I thought it'd be like, here, Tokyo, Hong Kong, similar. Not even close. The average 3-bedroom apartment in New York City is like $8,500 a month to rent. Do you understand how fucking crazy that is? That is over $100,000 a year. That is $102,000 a year, if my math is correct, to rent a 3-bedroom. And we're not talking about like a huge 3-bedroom. We're talking like 1,400 square feet, which is not massive for a 3-bedroom apartment. Maybe even less, to be honest. It might be like under 1,400 square feet. It's crazy, okay? And the guy wants to freeze rents. And you know what? I go back and forth on the rent freezing thing because, there's people on the right who are like, you can't freeze rents. You can't have rent caps because what happens is when you cap rent, developers are like, we don't want to build new places anymore. It's the fact that the market's, the government's intervening in the free market makes developers not want to build, and you actually end up with less supply and higher prices. However, all my Canadian friends, if you live in Ontario, you know that there are pretty severe rent caps in Toronto. Like your rent cannot go up more than the price or more than the amount of inflation essentially every year. Like you can't, like in New York City, first off, in New York City, your leases are year to year. Like if you live in Toronto, when I live in Toronto, you sign a lease and when the lease runs out, you just stay. It just extends indefinitely, essentially. And it's very difficult to kick people out. Your rent can only go up like a few percent annually. New York City, literally you sign leases and when the lease is over, they could be like, your rent's up 50%. You don't like it, scram. And that's just how it is, right? And Toronto does not, and many places that have these like rent caps do not seem to have been affected. Like, building is nonstop in Toronto. So I don't know about that kind of thing. I will say, I don't think he's going to destroy New York City. If de Blasio couldn't do it, then really nobody can. Is he going to make it a little more dangerous? Probably. That's what happens when you defund police, literally everywhere. The guy literally wants to replace the police with just social workers. He's like, you know what? Because right now the subway's actually really safe. You go down there, it's full of cops. Must cost a fortune. They don't do anything other than, I guess, deter crime, which is something. But he just wants to replace them with social workers. Like there's a good chunk of people doing crime. They're about to do a crime. And if they just had somebody to talk to, that's all they're missing is they just need somebody to chat with briefly and they won't commit these crimes. It's literally delusional, right? You have to almost, to this version of leftism, you have to accept that there's no bad people. All people are good, and just sometimes there's no malevolence. They're all good people. Sometimes they do bad things, but everybody in their heart is good. And you go, no, some people are just piece of shit animals who need to be locked in a cage. City-run grocery stores, that's a legitimately laughable position. I honestly want city-run grocery stores. He's only going to open 5 of them, 1 in each borough. I just want him to do that to watch how badly it fails. It's not going to impact me. I shop at Trader Joe's and sometimes Whole Foods. I'm not going to a city-run grocery store. A grocery rebate tax would accomplish the exact same thing because all that's going to happen is taxpayers are going to basically fund subsidizing groceries. So just give them a rebate on their groceries and let's just call it a fucking day. But no, that would be way too simple. Like as long as he doesn't outlaw private companies from selling groceries, go ahead. You want to compete with Trader Joe's, who has like the most like dialed in supply chains? Go ahead. Literally have fun with that. It's just going to be a huge waste of money, but they waste money on all sorts of shit. So really, who cares? But threatening to strip him of his citizenship and deport him, that's the kind of stuff that'll just get him elected. I don't know why this guy from Tennessee needs to butt into New York City politics. Like I get everybody's like New York City's like the economic engine of America. It's, GDP of New York's like $2 trillion. And I get that. But look, it's like, I don't know how much you know about New York City. New Jersey is I'm literally 1 mile away from New Jersey right now. Like not exaggerating. I could be in Hoboken, New Jersey, where I used to live. If I left this second, I could be there in 10 minutes in an Uber. It's not a big deal. Some people might live there. People are like, I don't want to live in Hoboken, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. But yeah, this is not a good idea for the Republican Party to be doing shit like this. And I know some people are worried that if he wins, it'll be bad for the Republican Party in the midterms because they're like, yeah, there's like a vibe shift going on. But at the end of the day, you still have to contend with the Trump administration. And currently, besides, in my opinion, the overly aggressive deportations, they're pretty much knocking it out of the park. I mean, nobody's talking about this, but the tariffs, which everybody was so worried about, they're all working. All this shit is working. Nobody is talking about this. Everybody said the economy would be destroyed. It's literally, remember that paper I was talking about? This shit is working out exactly to plan. It is crazy. The stock market just hit all-time highs today. Bitcoin near all-time highs, even though that was not a part of it. The dollar is tanking. Interest rates are coming down. No noticeable increase in inflation. As crazy as it sounds, we might get that no income tax thing before he's done. There might be no income tax in America. I can't believe I'm even saying this, but it might actually happen. All right, everybody. The phone lines are open. 1-888-949-2969. Bear with me as I am answering the calls myself. We can talk about whatever the fuck you want to talk about. Whatever the hell you want to talk about. Please like and subscribe to the channel. If you're an audio listener, make sure to follow the podcast. Leave a review. Of course, if we hit the super chat goal that I've posted above, maybe there. I don't know. Excuse me. We'll do an extra 30 minutes. And if you like the show, tell a friend. And if you want to support the show, you can do so. 1-888-9. No. Tell a friend. Sorry. All the calls are coming in. Let's see. Oh, man, I might fuck this up. Hold on.
Hello.
Hey, what's up? 1 second. Did this work? All right. You are on Low Valley Mail. Who am I speaking with? I think this worked.
Hey, Danny, how are you?
Good. I haven't done this in so long. Answer the calls myself, so I was worried I was going to fuck it up.
I have not called
Zach
you
from
about
Texas.
3 years.
What's up, dog? How you been, man?
Yes, sir. I'm pretty good.
Three things.
Sometimes
One, if I can,
there's no malevolence.
low-value life updates.
Yeah, go ahead.
When I last called you, I was on honeymoon with my wife 2 years ago. We have since bought a house and are expecting a child. So we're countering that Demos guy or whatever.
Congratulations. When are you expecting your child?
Christmas time.
Christmas time. Nice, man.
The Christian one, not the pagan one.
The Christian one. Yeah. The real one, not the Jew one. Isn't that right? Well, congrats, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. We saw you in Plano on Friday night, and you didn't do any sort of meet and greet. What's up with that?
In Plano, I usually always pop out. I don't pop out like right away, but I'm always, dude, I was at the bar. I remember that in Plano. I was like, I would have been at the bar afterwards. It might be like, I might take 5 minutes to just go like piss or something.
Maybe we left too soon, man.
Yeah, maybe you left too soon. I feel like I should probably announce it when I'm on stage just so people don't take off. I never do that. I'm not good at this stuff, but I will be at Hyenas.
No,
I will be at Hyenas in Dallas in, I believe, October.
Well, I'll have to see you. My wife's birthday is then, so we'll see if I can get away.
I don't know what date it is yet, or maybe it's September. I wrote it down somewhere. I just booked it. No, October 24th to 26th. I'm gonna be in Dallas Hyenas.
We'll see.
Yeah,
Dallas Hyenas.
Yeah.
And the last one, a bone I've had to pick with you for a long time. You said Neil Young is the GOAT a long time ago. Not true. Not even for Canadian artists. He's like fifth at best.
What? Who do you have ahead of Neil Young?
All right. Drake, of course.
Oh, shut up. I like Drake, but we're not like, yes, if you want to talk about who's the most famous Canadian, then you go, okay, sure, Drake. I'm talking about like the best musician.
My problem with Neil Young, he's not good on his solo stuff. He's got like 2 good songs.
He does not have 2 good.
He's not good.
He does not have 2 good songs. Come on, we're getting
Heart of Gold, and I can't even name the second one at this point.
Helpless, dude. He's got so many bangers, man. He has
he's
Harvest Moon.
He's good in groups. Not good by himself.
I disagree. I mean, he's a bit of a insufferable prick now. I'll give you that. But the music is great. But I don't know who else do you have ahead of? Who else do you have ahead of him? Drake. What you can
Gordon Lightfoot.
Gordon Lightfoot's pretty solid.
I don't like Justin Bieber, but I'd rank him above Neil Young just because I'm a hater at this point.
Yeah, you are a hater.
Dion.
So come on, she has like 2 songs. Literally,
so
if she
Neil
was
Young, okay?
No, Neil Young does not have 2 songs. That is all lies. All lies.
Well, that's about it.
Rush is pretty good. I mean, the Guess Who has a crazy amount of bangers actually.
Bare Naked Ladies.
Bare Naked Ladies is good, yeah, but they're not in Neil Young category. I would say the closest to like really great songwriters is the Guess Who has like some insane bangers. You forget how many good songs the Guess Who has.
But, well, I better let you go before everyone stops
cool.
watching.
Well, good talking to you, man. Congratulations.
You too. Thanks.
Later.
Peace.
All right. One second. Hello. You're on Low Value Mail. Who am I speaking with?
Sorry?
I said, who am I speaking with? You're on the show.
Oh, my name is Brandon. I'm from BC, Canada.
Brandon from BC, Canada. Where in BC?
In Kelowna.
Oh, I love Kelowna.
You've been to Kelowna?
Oh, man, many times. Many times I've been to Kelowna. That is one of my... If I ever am forced to retire in Canada, I think it'll be to Kelowna. I've played the casino there. I had a friend who lived there actually for a while. He's dead now. But he lived there for a while, so I would go there all the time.
Oh, no kidding. That's great.
Yeah, I love Kelowna. The Okanagan.
Yeah. So I'm a little bit behind where you are, like live on the show. So if I missed
well, we kind of just started. Yeah, I mean, whatever you want to talk about. This is just open lines, so it's up to you.
Okay. So it's works even better since you've been here. But So Kelowna, like if you've been here, like, you know, it's kind of a weird little like college town, you know, there's a big lake in the middle of it. Like it's pretty idyllic in a lot of ways, but
it's summertime. I don't know if there's anywhere better in Canada than Kelowna.
Yeah. It's just kind of a bit of a hidden gem. At least it was.
Good
for quite
wine.
a while, right?
Man, they have amazing wine. Yeah. Mission Hill, right?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. If you're into wine or golf or like being on a lake, this is the spot to be in the summer.
It's life, man.
But what's happened in like it's gotten really bad and really noticeably bad in probably like the last 7 or 8 years. Like there's homeless people everywhere at this point.
Really?
Right. And it used to be kind of concentrated to one particular part of downtown. And now like throughout town, there's homeless people everywhere.
Do you have an explanation for it? Because I actually don't. I haven't probably been there in about 8 years. I would say that was probably the last time I was there. And I don't remember seeing homeless people at all. Definitely nothing where I'm like, man, there's a lot of homeless people here. Do you think they're like coming from Vancouver?
Yeah. That's entirely possible. I don't have an explanation for it either, but like, I think like my issue with it is that we seem to spend more money on social programs and that sort of things every year. And the issue gets exponentially worse.
Right.
And like, you know, the old cliche is, you know, keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
And yeah, like
I mean,
I don't understand.
The homeless problem is one of the toughest ones because when you talk to people who like actually work in it, who are not like ideologues, essentially they're like, this is an impossible situation. Like a lot of these people cannot be helped. Like you really can't help them. But you have to be like, we're doing, and especially in Canada and especially in British Columbia, which is like, you know, very left wing. They just got to be like, yeah, we have to act like we're doing something. But you're like, they can't be helped. Like some of them are so far gone. They're either like, you know, have mental health issues, drug addiction issues. They're like, some of them can be helped. Many of them just like can't be helped. Like you hear stories time and again of someone who they're like, you know, we get them into all this like programs, like, you know, we take care of them and then they're just back on the street just because that's where they're going to wind up regardless. Like you cannot help them. But BC, they're probably like, yeah, let's throw tons of money at it. That'll fix it. And you're like, doesn't fix it, but they got to do something.
Do you think that, because like, I agree, but do you think that there's just more of those people that can't be helped being created just
potentially,
because of the way society
like potentially
is?
There's more people slipping through the cracks. I know the economy is like, as bad in Canada as probably any point of my adult life, I would say.
Yeah.
Like that's crystal clear. I mean, you see these things like I can't remember. I think it was actually in Kelowna. I saw a video maybe on Twitter. I think it was in Kelowna. Like there was like a job fair at a Canadian Tire. You can tell me if you know what I'm talking about. I think it was in Kelowna though. Yeah. I think this was like in the last 2 days. There was a job fair at a Canadian Tire, which for people who don't know is just like a general goods kind of like box store. And the lineup was like hundreds of people trying to get what I would assume be like 5 jobs. Like when I was in high school, if you wanted to get a job at Canadian Tire, you just showed up there, dropped off a resume. There was no lines to get a job and you would probably have one like doing something in fairly short order. Like, and now the supply and demand of labor is like so out of whack, mostly because I think they've brought in so many like just people, like essentially immigrants or permanent residents, that it's just so yeah, there might be people who are like just giving up and falling through the cracks and they wind up homeless. And if you're going to wind up homeless, honestly, Kelowna, not a bad place to do it.
Yeah. You're not going to freeze to death in the winter. And
you're not going to freeze to death in the winter, and the summers are sick.
Yeah. It is an interesting thing actually, because my little brother, he was a couple of years back, maybe 5 years ago, he was talking about how when he was applying for jobs, like fresh out of college, he'd have like 3 or 4 job offers at once. And he's still kind of doing that. And he's like, I can't get a call back these days.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Like,
so,
I mean, it's basic econ 101, supply and demand. You're just like, flood the market with people who need jobs, and you go, okay, well then the competition gets so insane Like if you even think of it from the aspect of an employer, you're like, if you're an employer and you're just flooded with, 500 applications for your job, the odds are you're not going to pick the best one. You're not going to get to that 500th person. You're eventually just going to get fatigued going through all this and just be like, I found someone who's good enough. Whereas if you had 20 applications, you probably do go through all of them and you probably do find whoever you think is at least the best one. So, Canada has a lot of problems that I know they're cracking down on immigration. Maybe it'll change once all those permanent residence visas run out, assuming they all leave. Because I think there's millions of permanent residence visas are set to expire like in the next year. But again, I don't know if they leave, but then I don't know if they can work. Maybe they all take jobs like under the table. I don't know how it's going to work, but Trudeau fucked that country up so insanely. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's a sad thing because I don't want to offend anybody listening, but for a long time, I really
that's impossible. I don't know if you've caught the show in a while, but not possible.
But I truly did believe that Canada was one of the best countries in the world for a long time, and it just took one or I guess two political terms to really, really cause irreparable damage. And I'm assuming that 50 years from now in social studies class, it'll be here's how you destroy a middle class, right? And
it'll be a social studies class in a different country. They're going to be talking about that. They're
in a different country.
It's not going to be in Canada. They're going to be like, yo, this is how fucking our prime minister fucked this place up. It'll be glowing about all the dicks he chopped off. No. They're not going to be doing that in Canada. No way. That'll be the one thing they don't do. I mean, that's the thing. They had the chance to elect Poilievre to maybe course correct. It seems like Carney is not doing the worst job, but I just don't think he's doing shit that's kind of drastic enough. I do like that he really is runs it like a business a little bit, which you kind of, I think, do want, especially with the economy where it is, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I don't know, but I don't like seeing.
I don't have high hopes, unfortunately.
Yeah. Would you be welcome to British Columbia joining America or Canada joining America at this point?
Yeah, I actually don't hate the idea anymore. I don't know, just crossing the border into Washington State, you just it's just the vibe's a little different, right? And it's like going back in time a little bit, right? Where
it is, you know what? That is very well said. It is it feels like Canada 10 years ago here.
Yeah, in a good way. Yeah.
In a good way, yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right, well, I got to let you go. I got a lot of other callers, but appreciate you calling in.
Yeah, thank you, Danny.
Take care. Yeah. All right. The phone lines are open, 1-888-949. 2969. Did I miss any super chats? Missed one. All right. We got Bobo Mahua says, go on Tower Gang, and Jose's no way, Jose, show you coward. Didn't they end Tower Gang? Isn't that over? Isn't that what I saw? Hey, one sec here. All right, you're on Low Value Mail. Who am I speaking with?
Tyler.
Hey, what's up, Tyler? How's it going, man?
Good. So I'm actually from Minnesota and with Canada adjacent, I guess, at this point.
Thunder Bay. Is that where you went to go get fucked up?
Yeah.
When you were a teen?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that's a spot. Not a good spot to go get fucked up.
Yeah. So what's the topic here? I saw the title.
We're talking about making Iran great again. We have my guest who's coming on in 15 minutes from now. Is actually a former Iranian political prisoner who was
oh wow, I mean,
tortured by the regime. I believe he'll tell us all about it. But yeah, the Iran stuff. Yeah. I mean, it seems like Trump. Everybody wants to find maybe so much on this show, but you watch the mainstream media and they want nothing more. You watch it and you're just like, they would have been fucking so happy if every one of those B-2 bombers just got shot down and 20 American casualties. They would have just been sick. Trump sucks. And the guy seems to just pull off everything, man.
Well, I guess where I'm at with the whole thing, it's like, you know, where does this end? You know, like, what is the end goal here? Like, the world should be curious. Like, where does this play out? You know?
I agree. Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know if you caught the beginning of what I was talking about, but like the U.S. has been working on this specific thing for 15 years. I had no idea about that. That was,
it goes back to like 9/11 and yep.
No, but specifically bombing but specifically like they've obviously never wanted Iran to have nukes or whatever, but like specifically bombing these Iranian nuclear sites that were being built like in the mountains underground. Like they designed weapons specifically with the specifications of those like facilities in mind. Like they had all the specs, the wiring, like the concrete, everything to know like how do we basically damage these specific sites, and built the bombs to
we just came up with that overnight, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I honestly, I might be just like naive or just, you know, ill-informed, which I certainly am ill-informed. I just thought they had these weapons.
All are. We don't.
I just thought they had these weapons lying around.
You know, our own intelligence said there is, you know, it's like, what is the, but I guess the end, kind of what I'm getting at here is like, I'm not sure what more people need to see regarding this situation. Like, it's a repeat of what we've done before, and, you know, everything coming out. It's like, is there like almost a way to like pump the brakes and go like, what are we doing?
Well,
it seems to like come off like the centrist, like.
Yeah, it seems like from the sounds of it, again, who knows what's going to happen? Like it's hard to predict this stuff, but from the sounds of it, it seems like Trump's like, well, yeah, we're done with this. Like this is just like a one-time deal, in and out. We're going to now go try and negotiate with Iran, which seems like, you know, they're at least hopeful that they'll get some negotiations with Iran. Iran will just be like, hey, we're not going to develop nukes. I mean, Trump did say he put on Truth Social where he's like, I don't want to use the term regime change, but that's where the make Iran great again. He's like, why wouldn't they do a regime change if their government's bad?
Yeah, right.
Right, but you know, they're going to be like, they're offering up $30 billion. I don't know in what form to basically for a nuclear energy facility. Like Iran would be a very prosperous country if they didn't have all these sanctions on them.
Oh, it could be. Yeah.
It could be.
Yeah.
So, but again, like, you know, obviously the people who are in power do not give a shit about that. They do not give a shit about that.
Well, the propaganda, it's like, you know, they've been saying this for 20 plus years now. They hate us for our freedom. They want to destroy us. It's like, again, it's like literally the repeat is what really gets me the most at this point. We're kind of going back, and they almost, you know, it worked before. They're going to try it again.
Yeah. I don't think Trump wants to do that. I don't think he wants a single U.S. soldier in Iran. Now, again, we could talk about this in 6 months. I could be totally wrong. And, you know, things can happen that would require that. I don't know. But it doesn't seem like the amount of shit he's talked about Iraq and Obama and Bush and just like how much of a disaster that is. I don't think he has any interest in doing that.
Well, and the response from his like followers is like really telling. It's kind of dividing it all. And, you know,
it's not though. Like, well, maybe for boots on the ground, but like, I think.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I'm talking about like the people who supported him were like, they're now like, this is it. We're done.
Yeah. You know? As long as this is the extent of it. But like, I think they polled like close to 90% of like MAGA Republicans were in favor of bombing Iran. And like, I think it was in the 70s for just regular Republicans. Obviously, Democrats were like in the teens or something, which is understandable because they wouldn't like anything he's doing. But, it seems like people are pretty on board with this. It's not costing whatever he just did is not costing him many votes, if any.
I would just say it's probably not like a matter of they're on board with it. It's like, what are you going to do? It's like, what could you do? It's like, yeah, people are saying this is bullshit. And like, this is not what we want. Like, what are you doing? And now, I don't know. It just seems like.
But the worry was, this is going to like result in some larger war, and if it doesn't, then they can just be like, all right, I guess he knows what he's doing. Obviously, if it does, that is a political risk he takes because he probably knows that nobody wants that, and that if this is like, you know, American soldiers in caskets with American flags draped on them coming back from this fucking dumbass thing, like, yeah, that's gonna not reflect well on him. But I think he knows that, and I don't think he has any interest in it. But we'll see.
Yeah, hard to say. It just seems like we've ended up in this place where, he ran on the,
Yeah, he ran on no new wars. That was literally, he said it over and over again, no new wars. And I mean, currently he's keeping I don't think he counts this going to fucking blow up.
It's hard to say, like, we're doing everything but boots on the ground, but we're not in this, right? I mean, we're reaching a point here. Yeah. Again, I'm just trying to think of like what is the end goal here? And
the end goal, if the end goal would be, I guess from his point of view, is just to denuclearize Iran. And he goes, if that's the outcome, he's happy about that. I mean, this could easily blow up in his face. I don't know. It's certainly possible that there's some.
It's looking like it is. Yeah.
Well, you think it's blowing up in his face already?
A little bit. I mean, just like he is really making enemies with the people who played a big role in getting him, the win. So it's like it is causing.
I mean, the polling says otherwise, though. Like these weren't like biased.
Because the polling is always accurate, like that's.
I know, but like I'm saying, when it's 90% of MAGA people are. Here's the thing: the MAGA people. It's very difficult for him to do any wrong with the MAGA people. The real people are like the Republicans who are like not hardcore MAGA, but they're like, we don't want the Democrats. They're like, I can't vote for Kamala Harris.
I put back a little bit where it's like, we don't, I think, I voted for Trump. I hate to say it, but, at this point, and again, I'm always duped. It's like,
yeah. Yeah. So you're probably in that second cohort where you're like, I'm, you're on the fence.
Well, it's just like, it would have been, there's always the reason, this is where it's always something, it's like, I'm going to run on the no war, but then we have to. Mm-hmm. It's hard to always fall for it. Right. I fell for it numerous times. We all have. So.
Right. But I mean, are you at the point where you go, this specific thing he did was like a breach of your trust, where you go, because he didn't necessarily promise to not do this. He says, I'm not going to start a war, and he hasn't started a war.
No, he tries to keep it consistent. He says, like, yeah, I told him, I've said it, like, yeah, no nuclear, for Iran.
Yeah. And again, this is before even his administration. This goes back to Obama.
Of course.
Angling
I
to
think,
do this.
Yeah.
But
it's hard to not see it.
There's a lot of people.
It's hard to not see it like we're at the behest. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say there's a lot of people who are exactly like you, and they're like, if this gets out of hand, you're like, we're done with Trump, which is fair enough. Like,
well, we're dragged into it, and it's hard to not see it like we're at the behest of Israel. Like we're doing it to, it's hard to see it any other way at this point. And
I kind of disagree with that, and you guys would probably be like, yeah, because you're a Jew. But I mean, like, again, I'm like, he gave 60 days. He goes 60 days to negotiate with Iran. They didn't do it. And then on day 61, Israel just conveniently starts bombing the shit out of them. Like, they were doing that at his behest. I think it's the opposite way around, especially when you factor in that they've been planning on this for 15 years. He's just the guy who's finally pulling the trigger on this.
It's a mutual. I would say it's a mutual. I'm definitely not saying it's all Israel's fault.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a really
Israel's loving
way
this.
to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, Israel's absolutely loving this. Like, the's no question about that.
It's one of those things.
Like, they're not begrudgingly doing this. I'll concede that.
It looks bad. It looks bad where it's like he's saying we're doing this, and then all of a sudden Israel goes what appears to be rogue. That they're trying to save face by saying Trump knew all along. And
for sure.
It's just kind of turning. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he did, but it's like it looks. You could take it the other way too, if that makes sense. Like you could look at it like, oh, he just didn't know, and he's trying to say, oh, I knew all along. Right.
Possibly, and he's trying to save face. I don't see. He's like, I know he is the ultimate save face guy. Like he never wants to come across as wrong or weak or anything. I just don't see it. Like these things get planned out like pretty far in advance. They don't just wing this shit. Like this has probably been planned out for a while. Well, I mean, we know that America has planned this out for 15 years. I don't know at what point Israel got brought in, but probably for a long time.
I'm kind of curious, why 15 years? I thought because my whole understanding is that after 9/11, they brought in the documents that said hey, even we're going to go after these countries. We're going to end with Iran. That's what I've heard. Where's the 15 years? I'm kind of just
the 15 years was it was from I wish I could find this guy who was like what his role is, but he's some like general in the army. Let me see.
Yeah, Wesley Clark, maybe, right?
No, it wasn't Wesley Clark. It was...
Okay, that's the 2001. That's
no. This was today. I want to say, fuck. How do I find this?
Oh, okay.
No, this was either today or yesterday. They announced. Let me see if. Oh, here we go. This is today. General Dan Raisin Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, shares the 15 plus years of meticulous planning and studying that went into obliterating the Iranian regime's nuclear facilities. So no, this isn't Wesley Clark. This is
so that's when it like became like an objective. That's like
it became. He talks about, like, go watch the press conference or whatever. He talks about it. Like, we were talking about this.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Then he's like, we basically started like scouting it out. Then he's like, we realized, like, we were watching them develop this site, and then they're like, eventually they realized, we're like, the only reason they would be doing this in a fucking mountain with would be to build nuclear weapons. There'd be no other reason. But then they're like, we had no artillery to deal with it. They're like, we couldn't do anything about it. So then they gave Boeing like some crazy contract, $70 million to essentially develop these weapons. And he's like, we tested them hundreds of times, like in these specific scenarios. We had all the specs just so we could literally accomplish what they did. But when it was happening in real time, it felt like they were just winging it. You're just like, it felt like Trump just woke up one morning and he's just like, we're just doing this.
Yeah,
but
I don't really see it that way.
Again, he could be lying. He could be lying. I'm like, it wouldn't be the craziest thing if you go, he's making this shit up. Possible. I mean, I'm not some guy who's just like, oh, everything that someone from the government tells me is the truth. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. I'm just kind of curious. Are you out of Canada, or are you?
No, I'm in New York City.
Canadian, or
I'm a Canadian who lives in New York. I live in New York City.
Yeah. Okay, I thought I caught the tail end of that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm in New York.
Not like it matters. I was just curious if like you were okay. So with everything going on at this point, I'm just kind of deferring back so you can relate. That we're in America. It's like, what do you deal with? Like, what are people's like kind of reactions to the daily things going on? I'm not
like
in New York.
For New York things, you mean?
I guess I'd kind of like some insight. Like,
nobody talks about nobody, like literally all the comedians I know, they're all just sucking Zoran's cock. I don't know. They're comedians are general. Well, yeah, comedians are generally very left leaning. Nobody I know like talks about this Iran stuff. To be honest, like it's mostly like the vibe of the city right now is all just the mayor stuff, especially because it's become like this national story. So that's what everybody really cares about.
Yeah,
for the most part, everybody's just like living their life. I don't know.
How is that possible?
How is it possible? I mean,
well, what's he saying? He's like, yeah.
I mean, I'll say this with everybody's like, how's a socialist like getting elected in New York? You're like, dude, the wealth disparity in the city's insane. The amount of people who live here, who I personally know, and there's no shortage of them. Like, you go out to Brooklyn, they're like, got some like liberal arts degree, $200,000 in student debt, works as like a barista or some like shitty job, has 4 roommates, like barely surviving, will never get a chance to participate in capitalism in any sort of meaningful way. They're like, I might be 70 years old by the time I'm out of the hole. Like, I'm never going to own a house.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be renting for the rest of my life. Of course they're a socialist. You're like, literally, of course. They're like, my parents aren't rich, so I'm not like, waiting for them to die to get some inheritance. Of course they're going to become a socialist. That's obvious. Like,
I'm not, the whole thing is, it's like, I can see why it might gain traction, like the whole wealth disparity thing. It's like, instead of like, let's just keep the system the way it is, let's just pay people more. It's like, how about we reevaluate like everything, right?
Yeah, and look,
I think it is coming to a head.
Yeah, it is. And New York is the worst place for it because this is the only place where you're like,
doesn't make sense.
You could be living in some shithole, like absolute shithole, where you're like, I live in like a roach infested apartment with 4 roommates, and you're 5 houses down. Someone lives in like a $20 million brownstone. Like, and it's your neighbor,
Right.
and you're like, we couldn't, like, you don't go to the suburbs and you're like, you have millionaires living beside poor people. Like everybody is really like segregated based on class more in the suburbs. Whereas here, everybody's together. So you see all these people who are like insanely wealthy and they're your neighbor. And you're just like, I don't know. I feel like it probably rubs some people the wrong way more in this scenario. Anyways, I got to let you go because I got to get to the guests, unfortunately.
Fair enough.
But
Right
good talking to you, man. All right. Take care. All right. That has been the conclusion of the open lines portion of the show. If you'd like to see more open lines, you can do so by dropping a super chat. And if you don't sweat it. Because I want to go do stand up later. So, all right, everybody sit tight. We will be back with our guest. See ya in a few minutes. Don't go nowhere.
There's a lot.
All
dude.
right. What's up, everybody? We are back. Joining me today from Toronto. We've known each other for a while. We probably met 10 years ago, something like that. Sia Savafi. How you doing, man?
Good. How you doing, man?
I was noting that you look like you're in a proof of life video right now.
Yeah, I told you I don't have a setup here.
Yeah, you don't have a setup. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
fine.
not in Toronto. Right now I'm in St. Catharines.
Oh, you live in St. Catharines. I believe that is the donut capital of Canada.
Yeah. I moved to Manitoulin Island a few years ago.
Oh, yeah, I remember that, actually, yeah.
Yeah, I bought some sheep and stuff. Then...
you have sheep?
I had sheep.
What happened?
They multiplied beyond control.
And what, you just had to kill them all?
No, I sold them. What are you
you sold them? I don't know. God.
No,
I'm no farmer.
There's too many sheep. I should kill them.
Hold on. What's going on here? You just disappeared from the screen. 1 second here. What is going on?
I have you.
No, just for the... Oh, wait a second. I moved this over. Hold on. Oh, here we go. I have to keep this here. All right. That's fine.
Hey, everybody.
This is Sia, everyone. So tell people just a little bit about yourself before we get started.
I was born and raised in Iran until I left the country when I was 28. In university, I became a student activist, organizing protests and such. We got arrested, sent to prison, tortured and all that. And when our prison sentence came, we decided not to go back to prison. So we escaped the country.
I lived in Turkey. You live in Turkey. How does that work when you were like what out on? Yeah, so you applied for appeal and they let you out.
Yeah, it took a year. The appeal took a year. Then the same prison sentence came. So we had 30 days to basically surrender.
Yeah,
and we bailed through the mountains with a smuggler to Turkey.
So a coyote essentially took you out of.
The Iranian version of it. Yeah.
The Iranian version. What do they charge for that?
A very good dude. Nobody got molested or anything.
Yeah. Well, that's nice of him. What's the going rate for smuggling one out of?
At the time, this guy was the lowest rate, best, basically security. $1,200.
Pretty good deal, man. And how much? Yeah, how much time were you facing?
A year.
1 year in jail.
And lashes and all that stuff. And at the time, there was so many things. I actually wanted to go, but there were pressures not to. So
you wanted to go to jail?
Because I didn't want to leave.
Right. You didn't.
Because you burn. When you leave, you burn. You're not in the muck with the rest of people. You're not really affecting things directly. So, but family and stuff pressured, and I had to leave.
Yeah, you had to go. So, and what was your crime or your alleged crime?
Insulting the leader, basically.
Khomeini?
Translate. Khamenei. That's the mistake everybody makes. Khomeini was the first one. Khamenei was the second one.
Khamenei. Okay. The K is kind of silent.
The last syllable just go A.
A. Khamenei. And the K is silent.
Yeah, you say Khamenei. Yeah.
Gotcha. And so what was the insult? What did you do? What did you say?
Nothing. It was just a bunch of things like this. Basically, how do I translate it? It's like disrupting the public order, even though we were in the university. He said it was a disruption of public order, insulting the leader, basically anti-revolutionary slogans, stuff like that. Bullshit.
Yeah, just
political stuff.
Yeah, political stuff.
Yeah,
which are big crimes there, I imagine.
Yeah, the number one basically charge for anybody who does political stuff is usually insulting the leader or acts against national security.
Right, and you were like tortured.
Absolutely. Again,
didn't they like do some shit or like someone you were with
beat the shit out of me, beat the crap out of me. I don't know if we should curse or not.
Yeah, you can say whatever the hell you want. Yeah, go nuts.
Okay, in Iran we call it just a good beating.
Right.
But when I met with the human rights lawyer in UNHCR in Turkey, he said, no, that's torture. And I was
Right.
like, we just call, because torture in Iran, they torture you and people die. So we don't really call a good beating a torture. Like the dude was smashing my face against the ground and like
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But
Sure.
yeah, that's not, yeah, we don't consider it torture, but apparently it's considered torture.
Okay, so let's get to the topic at hand here, because you are obviously, you're pretty active on Twitter. You're tweeting all the time. And was it Farsi?
Some in Farsi, yeah. Recently, I've kind of slowed down a little bit, waiting to see what's going to happen.
Okay, so but you obviously probably have a better understanding of what's going on.
Oh yeah,
You're clearly not sympathetic to the government there, which is fine. What is everybody getting wrong about what's going on here?
Oh, dude, you can write several books about it. I don't know where to start because it's like there's Iranians and then there's everybody else living in two different like parallel universes. Like,
do you still talk to people back home? Do you have family there?
Oh yeah,
still?
every city, yeah. All of my family, all of my friends, they're all still in Iran.
Okay, and what are they saying? Because it's very hard to find out what people in Iran are actually saying because it's not in English. Like you go on it and then it's all in Farsi, and you're just like, I don't.
That's the biggest problem. No, Iranians, majority of Iranians, first of all, in Iran are on Instagram because it's the easiest one to get on, and the rest are heavily filtered.
Okay.
And if you go there, you'll see, like millions and millions. Nobody likes this regime. Like, I don't know how many, where to start. There's so many things that we know for a fact, and then the rest of the world says something else.
Okay,
like,
any of these things.
Okay. Like, what is the number one thing when they talk about Iran and the Shah? What is the number one thing that comes up?
That the women were all wearing bikinis.
No, before why revolution happened and American involvement. What is it?
I don't know. I'm not.
The coup, 1953 coup.
Okay.
Against democratically elected prime minister.
Right, which is where the whole "Death to America" slogan came from.
Well, that's the myth.
Okay.
The problem is the academia has been run in the West by the socialists for the past like 30, 40 years. That's how you got all these new disciplines and all that stuff. The narrative changed, and CIA was also involved in that shift of narrative. So, for example, Iran was never a democracy. It was a semi-democracy. The prime minister was always appointed by the Shah. And according to our constitution, when the prime minister dissolves the parliament to orchestrate and to have a new election, it was in our constitution that the Shah had the power to remove the prime minister so he doesn't run the election and appoint an interim prime minister. Shah did that. Mossadegh said, I'm not going. So the Iranian army removed him. That's the extent of it. We have the accounts of everybody involved in that, from Mossadegh's friends to everybody else. This was not a coup. What Mossadegh did was a coup. The army removed him. There was one CIA guy in Iran that helped with some level of basic coordination because he was in an embassy and Mossadegh's police couldn't get him. Mossadegh was not popular when he went down. He had established martial law for days before that, and the economy was bankrupt. That's why nobody protested when he was removed. But the story became, oh, Shah removed this. America removed the democratically elected prime minister and appointed Shah back.
Yeah,
Shah was the stooge. Shah was the stooge of the West. That's another one. Shah, you've heard of OPEC, right?
Of course.
Okay.
The
oil
cartel.
Yeah. Shah started it. It was Shah's idea.
Pretty good.
Okay.
Idea.
So do you think that's an idea that a stooge of the West comes up with to raise the price of oil by 12 times in 6 months from
Yeah.
0.5% to $0.50 to $6 in 6 months.
No.
That's a stooge? No. But again, socialists were in charge of all the reporting. New York Times, we have all of it. That's the thing. It's like we live in a different universe. So I don't know where to start. Okay, one of the things that was mentioned a couple of times here, like sanctions is the reason Iran's economy is bad.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not.
So what's the reason?
Iran's economy, there is no management. For 2 years, they established the Department of Budgeting and Management, and they shut it down because it was budgeting and managing. And it's a caliphate. It's like whoever's closer to the top gets more. When I was 9, the first one of the embezzlements that was basically exposed, and usually they only get exposed when people in the regime want more, so they expose each other. That's the only way they get exposed. The first one I heard, it was over $2 billion. And this wasn't a top guy, one of the heads.
Yeah.
It was a second, third tier guy. Okay? When a third tier guy in 1980 can steal $2 billion, over $1.5 billion, how much do you think the rest of them are taking?
Right. So is that the kind of goal, is to just be involved in government? Is that the way to make money?
Yes. It's literally, they established a very interesting system. It's basically looks like democracy from outside. But first of all, nobody gets on the ballot unless the supreme leader allows it. And supreme leader has a whole body in the government dedicated to basically say, this guy can run, this guy can't. It's called the Guardian Council. So anybody who runs for any office has to first be approved that this guy agrees with everything that the supreme leader wants. And they go through his life.
Yeah.
Everything. So that's the democracy part of it. Then there is another part of it, which is the IRGC. The supreme leader had a view for Iran as similar to the Soviet Union for Shia. I don't know if you've heard the term, the Shia Crescent.
Shia Crescent? No.
Shia Crescent, yeah. That was the term. Basically, Supreme Leader wanted to create a crescent, a shield against the Sunnis, Saudi Arabia, which was the homeland of Sunni Islam. And it was Iraq, Syria, and Yemen.
Okay.
And guess what happened in those countries? Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen. Lebanon, Hezbollah was created by the Islamic Republic. Created. Syria, Iran was giving Syria, since I remember, billions of dollars of oil, free oil. They were just pumping them millions of dollars in oil to do what the regime wants. Iraq, after Saddam was overthrown, and basically there was no, the mistake that Americans made and basically just took out everybody in the government. The vacuum that created, the regime moved in, took over Iraq. And Yemen, the last one, like you've heard how many people talk about the genocide in Yemen. Nobody says how it started. The regime in Iran funded Houthis. Houthis overthrew the government in Yemen. And then they started shooting missiles into Saudi Arabia. And then Saudi Arabia and other Arab countries attacked. But nobody talks about the first part. Nobody.
Right.
Afghanistan, the same thing.
Iran, this is a stupid question. What is the difference between Sunni and Shiite specifically?
Okay, Shia was basically Iranians fucking with Islam, because Iran was this glorious empire, the oldest empire in the world, and basically Iran was considered the center of basically culture and everything. So when Arabs took over, conquered Iran, when the at the time government was weak, Arabs took over, and Iranians started to support the descent among Arabs. So the descendants of Muhammad, some Muslims believe that the descendants of Muhammad should rule the nation of Islam.
Uh-huh.
And others believe, no, it's Sunnah, based on Sunnah. Muhammad didn't choose somebody after himself. So anybody most people want, that's basically with more power and respect, that's the one who's going to become the caliph. Although that changed too. But Iranians realized there is a divide there. So they started supporting the descendants of Muhammad to rule.
Yeah.
And that's
so
how
is the Ayatollah a direct descendant of Muhammad?
No. Then Shia became its own thing. We now support the descendants of Muhammad. It became its own religion.
But like, are there known blood descendants of Muhammad?
No.
None. So it's kind of
we don't know. There are many people who are titled Sayyid, which means they are descendants of Muhammad, but it's just a thing that people made up and started.
Made up. It's like there's no verifiable proof of it. So you talk to
just
people.
A little bit of history.
Yeah, that's a little bit of history, which is the context is important because obviously Iran's slogan is literally "Death to Israel."
Yeah,
death to
That's
America.
the thing. That's why I told you I don't know where to start because there's such a divide between what we know for a fact and what the rest of the world
there's got to be specific things where you read all day and you go, "That's wrong."
Yeah, and it's like I don't know where to start.
Yeah. So you speak with people in Iran right now. Was there an internet blackout? I remember reading that like last week. Is that not true?
Sorry, you got cut off for a second.
Oh, I was saying, was there an internet blackout in the whole country last week?
Oh, yeah. Every time people protest in Iran, they shut down the internet. In 2017, they did it. 16, they did it. In 19, they did it. In 2022, they did it. And every time in a span of few days, hundreds, in 2019, thousands in a few days were massacred. And nobody in the world talked about it. Nobody. Right. The same people who were crying about everybody else, nobody. Why? Because the regime hates America, and anybody who hates America must have a point.
Sure. So for the most, what percentage would you say of 90 million people?
90 million, yeah.
90 million.
Around, yeah.
What percentage of Iranians are in favor of getting rid of the Ayatollah? I mean, I imagine it's not 100%.
Absolute majority. The regime, okay, you have to understand, the regime is a totalitarian state. So it means it's running everything. Everything. Every business, every government office, everything you can imagine. Every big corporation, you become like a corporate. You create a corporation. You have a good idea in Iran. You start a corporation. You start producing this thing. After you want to come out of your own city and start exporting like to other towns in the country or whatever, you get to a certain size, somebody from the government comes in, a bigwig, and says, okay, you need to give me 50%, or we're going to shut you down. And they will shut you down. There are numerous things like that. So they control all of it. So a lot of people's daily, basically, lives depends on the regime because they work for the regime directly or indirectly. Mm-hmm. Based on what we've seen from the online surveys and basically this closest, because there is no real survey, the things that we've seen, over 70% hate this regime and want it gone completely. It has about 10% absolute loyalists whose lives directly depend on it. And 20% are just
kind of in between. And so do you see any potential for any kind of regime change?
Oh, yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
That's your prediction? It's coming? How will it work?
Well, that's the thing. The mistake that some of the Westerners made, like when Israel hit the leaders, the ones that Israel killed is very important to understand. You know, like, again, totalitarian states, it's corruption. First, there is an ideology, and there are people who believe in that ideology. So they go with it. But as time passes, people realize, a lot of not cool people realize, oh, if I just pretend, I can go up in this system. Yeah. If I can just play the game, I can go up. And they don't believe in that ideology. Yeah, they just realize that, oh, if I act the same way with these people, I get money. I get a big piece of the pie.
Yeah.
So what happens in all of these totalitarian states is after a while, they run out of trusted people. Like you see Cuba, Fidel Castro, 89 years old, he's on his deathbed, he's still running the country. And who does he appoint as his successor? His 86-year-old brother.
Right.
Because he doesn't have anybody else that he can trust. Because he knows everybody is in it for the game, not for the ideology. So the same thing with Iran. Like in Iran, we have this Ayatollah, Jannati, we call him. There are like all the jokes about old people, like old jokes, all of them are done about this guy. He's 94 something. He has 4 jobs at the highest levels of the government, of the state.
What
4
jobs?
jobs. Like he head of the Guardian Council. He was the deputy of the Assembly of Experts, and the other ones changed. Like they move him from this one to that one. But those 2, he has been there for a very long time. Why is that? Because they don't have anybody else. So these people that Israel took out, these were the real deals of the regime. These were the people who ran stuff, really, for the leader.
Mm-hmm.
And now he doesn't have anybody at that level. The same way when Soleimani was took out, half of the regime was taken out.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So the regime is in absolute shambles right now. They don't even know who to put in what place. And people are waiting for a move from the regime. Regime is now involved with Israel and missiles and all that stuff. But at some point, the regime has to start do things domestically, like new policies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like right before these attacks, the regime
still have to run a
that,
country and an economy, a giant economy, right? Like, still all this other shit they have to do.
Yeah. So, like right before these attacks, they announced that they're gonna raise the price of gasoline soon.
Yeah.
They haven't talked about it since. So, because they know if they do, people will come to the street, and this time they saw you get your shit kicked in.
Mm-hmm.
So they know you're in shambles.
So are most people in favor, like when they see America and Israel, like do Iranians, what is the average Iranians position
Go
on
on Instagram.
Israel?
They are celebrating, and it's meme city. They can't openly come out and say yay because that's the thing. Because if most of them are in Iran, and it's an actual policy. If you say something in support of the regime of Israel, attacks or anything like that, they're going to come after you.
Right.
Do
people worry about, you're saying everybody's posting on Instagram? Like, are they worried? Like that must be illegal to be like posting shit on Instagram?
Okay, I'll give you an example. Ali Karimi is a most basically popular football player in Iran. Most popular ever. He played in Munich and all that stuff. He has like millions of followers, and he posts stuff about the Pahlavi, the Shah, and everything. And his posts get over 1 million likes. Wow. The regime can't go after 1 million people.
Right.
It just can't.
So it seems to be getting away from them a bit, the control.
Oh, it's gotten away from them completely. Like they're still trying to create that atmosphere of fear, and they go after some people publicly, but it's too big. It's too big. In 2022, over 130 cities, big and small, in Iran, people came out. In every one, at least tens of thousands.
Yeah.
Millions came out. It was glorious. But the problem is people don't have any weapons, and the regime has all the weapons.
Right.
And the regime, literally, the government in Iran, that's one of the other things. The regime doesn't believe in a nation, in the concept of nation. It's the nation of Islam, Shiite Muslims. That's what the regime believes. It doesn't care. Like, they removed pre-Islamic era from school books.
Right. They're just trying to rewrite things.
1,400 years of history, they just removed it from history books.
Started from scratch. So I assume you believe that the Iranian government was attempting to build a nuclear weapon? Safe to say.
Well, I don't. We know for a fact.
Yeah, we know for a fact. What do you think they were going to do with it?
I'm gonna tell you. Look, okay. When this started, the reason this started and everybody got on the regime is that for 13 years the regime was building a nuclear weapon, and nobody knew until somebody from inside took pictures and came to the UN. A defector came to the UN and showed. That was the first time in the 90s that they found out, oh, they are building it. Pakistanis are basically building it for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they found out. So when you hide a nuclear weapons program for 13 years and secretly buy small pieces from North Korea, Pakistan, and it has to be very under the radar, they don't trust you. Right. And then the supreme leader, one of the things that they keep referring to is that, oh, no, the supreme leader of Iran has said that it's haram. We don't want the nuclear weapon. It's like, do you understand that in Shia, Taqiyya is the #1 foundation of
which is what's Taqiyya again? Just for people.
Taqiyya is lying to protect Islam.
Yeah.
Or the Islamic State. Khomeini, the founder of the revolution, famously said, in order to protect the Islamic State, for a Muslim, it is okay to drink alcohol, to have sexual affairs, to lie, to steal, everything, if it protects the Islamic State. And then they quote the guy who said, no, we don't want it. It's like, okay.
Right. So it's kind of like the Mossad. It's like, war by deception.
It's such a naivete. It's like, like I get it that you in America have been basically burnt by CIA and FBI and all that. They've lied to you. Your government lied to you over and over and over again. But that doesn't mean now you just say, okay, let's drop their narrative and just directly take everything that this side says
at face
as
value.
the proof.
Yeah.
Literally. It's like Qatar said this. Qatar, have you followed Al Jazeera? I've been following Al Jazeera for the past 15 years. Qatar is literally the biggest supporter of everything that the regime has done. With Houthis, with Lebanon, with Hamas. All the Arab states literally boycotted Qatar because of this. The second largest supporter of all these Islamist movements has now become a source. And talk about, Qatar is, it's like, okay. When you talk about Qatar, I can't take you seriously. I don't care how much you don't like Israel. And it's not like we here just love Israel. Iranians have a very practical sense about this. Okay? We don't hate Israel. We don't hate Israel. We actually feel more of a kinship to Israelis than others in the region because we have a shared history. Cyrus is basically the founder of the Persian Empire, was the the one who saved the Jews from Babylon and all that stuff. And we have a lot of shared history. Jewish doctors in Iran, we have their ancient books and all that stuff. And compared to the Sunni Muslim Arabs, now they're changing. Arab Muslims are changing. Saudi Arabia has to realize that it needs to shift stuff. Yeah. But until then, we had more in common with Israelis than with Arabs. And but Iranians are simple.
Yeah, because Iranians are like, you guys, do you consider yourself Persian? What is the difference between an Iranian and a Persian?
Okay, Persian Empire was the country, the empire that existed until the Arab conquest.
Gotcha.
Yeah. For 1,300 years, it was basically the biggest. For some of it, the second biggest. Basically, it was Persia and Rome.
Yeah.
Now, you don't hear anything about Persia in any history. The biggest, longest empire in the history of the world. Why? Because the government in charge of it hates it. So when your government that's in charge of it doesn't allow excavation, doesn't allow historical documentaries, doesn't allow anything, nobody will know about like this giant portion of history.
Like you guys could have a tourism industry like Italy.
Dude, there's so much that is so ridiculous historically. It's like The word, okay, just a funny example, like the word paradise. You know where it comes from?
No.
Paradise. It's a Persian word. It's Cyrus's big, great gardens. Okay, he would invite the foreign ambassadors to that garden. It would impress them because it was so beautiful and so well maintained. And it became the word for heaven in the Western languages. The word paradise that we use for parks and for gardens.
Sure.
Because that's how beautiful it was. That's the funny thing. It's like the influences are there, but it's like nobody talks about it. Like when Hegel says basically that history of civilization starts with Persia, there's a reason for it. It's like, but nobody knows. And we hate this regime and this regime hates us. So I understand that people are upset in America. They're like, oh, this war and stuff. First of all, Iranians don't want a military conflict, like America getting involved in a military conflict, like boots on the ground or anything. Number one thing Iranians always wanted was to stop funding the regime. Stop making deals with it and treat it like a rogue state that it is. Just boycott it. The money that you spent, the Obama sent to Iran, directly went to Lebanon, to Houthis, and to killing Iranian people protesting. Because guess what? The regime can't trust its soldiers in Iran. Because soldiers in Iran are drafted. Okay?
Oh, were you drafted?
Well, I was my BMI was under 17, so
it was too low.
They didn't.
You're a bit of a skinny boy.
I was 110 pounds, 109 pounds, and 6 feet tall.
Wow, dodged a bullet there. That malnourishment really paid off.
Yeah, so military is draft. So when you know most of your people hate you, you can't give them guns.
Right.
So what the regime does is spends money on Palestinian, on Lebanese, and on Houthi and Iraqi militia. Whenever there is protests in Iran, they bring them in. There's countless videos of them. These suppression forces in the streets speaking Arabic to each other.
Right.
Iranians don't speak Arabic. Only like 2%, a very small corner of Iran speak Arabic. But they bring these people from abroad, and that's the money that the West keeps giving to the regime. And so that's the deal. Iranians will basically be friendly with anybody who understands this regime and says, like, that's why Iranians like Trump so much, because the first term of Trump, like I heard one of your listeners was talking about, oh, Trump said like no, and now he's starting this one. Literally, the number one policy that Trump had from the beginning was this regime, you must punch it in the face.
Yeah.
He brought
his
down
first time
Iran.
around.
Yeah. The oil export of the regime was 2.7 million barrels a day. Trump brought it down to almost 300,000 a day.
Yeah, that was his big gripe with Biden. Biden was like he let Iran basically.
Yeah, Biden let it go
selling
back up
oil,
to
and he's like, yeah, you funded the whole thing. He's like, we're in this problem to begin with. Yeah,
and it's like, no, this regime is very simple. It exerts power. It's trying to basically establish its forces, and it's not like a secret. It's literally the guy's doctrine. They call Syria Iran's like 31st province. In the regime. Okay, IRGC, for example. We in university, there was this general, IRGC general, who came to speak. He was literally openly explaining, but nobody hears this in English, openly explaining that IRGC's tactic abroad, foreign policy, what is it? It finds basically centers of population, Shia population in different countries, and starts funding them, and then starts weaponizing them, and then organizing them and using them as a bargaining chip. They did the same thing in Lebanon. They did the same thing in Iraq with Hashd al-Shabi. They did the same thing in Yemen with Houthis. They did the same thing in Afghanistan with Hekmatyar and Shah Massoud and other guys. Shah Massoud, although he separated himself from them after a while. But that's their strategy, and everybody knows this, but nobody cares because it's a Middle Eastern country that does stuff.
Right.
And what does it affect us? Well, whenever they shoot a rocket at Aramco or another oil company, the price of oil jumps $20. Maybe that would affect you, because still 35%.
And they probably know not to do that, because that's probably the one thing that can kind of get them.
Sometimes, but sometimes they do. When you give them a lot of power, like when Soleimani was alive, that's when they attacked Aramco. That's when they did the Houthis, and that's when they did all of these things. Soleimani was literally the center for all these terrorist organizations that he was the mastermind of. When they took him, you don't understand, when they took him out, the damage that the regime suffered. All these organizations completely became headless.
Yeah. And they got him with the Hellfire missile too.
Yeah, and after that, you saw their demise. Slowly, you saw their demise. And in Syria, then Lebanon went out, then Hamas, then all of them.
Yeah.
It was just like, sorry.
One more question, and then I'm going to open the phone lines, because I'm sure people have some questions for you.
Go for it.
So what were they going to do with the nuke? What is the purpose of them having a nuclear bomb?
The purpose of the nuke, okay, there are two ways to look at it. I'm not in the guy's hearts and mind.
But I'm sure a lot of Iranians that have ideas.
I can give you my understanding of what I have experienced and studied the regime for the past 40 years. The regime believes that if it gets nuked, then because it has believes that it has completely shut down the inside. Whenever there is proof, it has taken the guns out of the people's hands in 3 different stages in 20 years. And now population doesn't have any weapons. So it believes that it has completely, has a stranglehold on the inside. The only threat that it believes it faces is from outside. And if it has a nuke, that threat would be completely neutralized.
And so then they can keep control over their own population.
Yes,
essentially, it's to just remove outside meddling, because they're just they have the stranglehold on their own population.
Not just meddling, but when they go into Lebanon, when they start shooting rockets, literally all the rockets that Lebanon, Houthis, and Hamas, and all of them use are Iranian made. When they start shooting those rockets into Israel, Israel will not dare retaliate to Iran.
Right.
Because Iran has a nuke now. So it can just send its stooges to shoot at Israel without Israel being able to shoot back at the regime, because the regime has a nuke now. Basically, they only see things in a paradigm of power. Okay? I have power, I will dominate. It's an Islamist fundamental Islamic belief. If you study Quran, it's I don't know if we can get into that or not.
You get into whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's YouTube.
Literally, it's a handbook for colonization.
Yeah.
It's telling you, this is what you do in a country that is not Muslim. This is how you become powerful. And if you're a strong, powerful country, what you do. That's why whenever the Westerners appease them, they don't say, oh, they're nice, so let's not do this thing. They go, oh, look at these pussies. They are fearful of us. This is the time. The Westerners don't understand this mentality of absolute power and domination. They just don't understand it, because you don't live in that. You moved beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
And so they can't imagine that there are people who believe that.
Yeah. Phone lines are open. By the way, phone lines are open, everybody. 1-888-949-2969. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, finish your thought here. What were we saying?
Go ahead.
That's it. So,
yeah,
I'm trying to think. So, are you worried about how this plays out, or are you very certain that this is just going to lead to a regime change? Like, you don't think that? What is the thoughts on how successful? Because there were varying reports about whether they took out these nuclear facilities or not. I imagine, and it's all Iranian state-run media. So the Iranian state-run media is just like they were not successful. Nothing happened, essentially, right?
Yeah, that's the official thing. There are basically there are a lot of insiders in the regime that have been cooperating with Israel and the West. That's how one time Israel literally took out, like it was like 10 years ago something. Israel came in, took truckload of classified documents.
Yeah.
Showing the exact location of where they are basically enriching uranium. And they keep saying it's not for about 60%, 70% uranium enriched is useful for nothing.
Other than bombs. All right, hold that thought. I got to take a call here. Sorry, it's going to be like this just because I don't have the no producer this week, unfortunately. So I may have to cut you off from time to time to take a call. Hello, you're on Low Value Mail. You're on with Sia. Who are we speaking with?
Can't hear.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Well, hold on a second.
Hey, yeah, how's it going? Hey,
this is
Chris
Slav
Rogers.
the Jew. This guy's Jewish.
Hi, Jew.
Danny.
What's up, Jew?
Yeah, so that's it. Yeah, you're white. You married a Jew, and so will your kids be.
Did you say I'm white?
So
Thank
you
you.
guys are... Whatever, Kike. So
hey, that's gonna get me in trouble. You might have just got yourself a fucking 2-week ban, pal.
Whatever, dude. So what is it? Y'all are talking about Israel, and does anyone in the entire region not understand that, like because you understand, like, the whole world, the whole Western world has been told this, that, like, Iran is the biggest sponsor of terrorism, and nobody realizes that Israel relies and, like, secretly supports all of these groups that are so-called terrorists. I mean, for instance, during the Iran-Iraq war, they were completely supporting Iran secretly, and that Israel was the ones who destroyed Iraq's nuclear facilities in Operation Opera, and what was it?
For years, Iraq actually thought Iran did that.
Yeah, and guess who told them that? It was Israelis. So
no, it wasn't that they told. Go ahead. I'll tell you later. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking, it's like, it seems like the whole West, they overly rely on Israel for whatever intelligence they make up. So it just seems like, what was it? Yeah, Osirak. Yeah, that's what that reactor was called. But what were you gonna say about it?
Okay. I'm gonna say a couple of things. I want to make it clear. As I said, in the West, you might have a view of the military-industrial complex and all the shit that they've done, and I agree. There's a ton of horrible shit that they've done. And but I'm gonna present an argument. I don't know if you like it or not. Middle East, Persian Gulf is basically the oil center of the world. About 35%, still 35% of world's oil goes through this region. And then you have this revolution, helped by Carter, by the way, Jimmy Carter, that Iranians celebrated when he died.
Just a simple peanut farmer.
That piece of garbage.
Fuck Jimmy Carter. He's burning.
Fuck Jimmy
he's
Carter.
boiling in
God bless you.
He's
in
boiling in
hell.
peanut oil.
Yeah. So that fucker basically supported Khomeini to the tune of $150 million when he was in France. Anyway, I'm not going to get up. So look at it from just geopolitical angle and economic. You have this country, Iran, that suddenly the regime became completely ideological, anti-Western, and totalitarian, and a rogue state, completely like cut off any normal relationship and said, this is our ideology, this is what we're going to do. They started, basically, everybody thinks Iraq attacked Iran, but no, Iran was actually funding Shiite groups in Iraq And Khomeini actually issued a fatwa saying to Iraqi soldiers to rise up against Saddam. That's why Saddam attacked. And there was 8-year war. 8-year war, price of oil got crazy. And so the West looks at it and goes, okay, there is this ideological regime here. And Saudi Arabia starts responding to that. So there is this battle in this region, keeps happening between these two versions of Islam. Who else do you have in this region that you can basically kind of trust and have a base in and monitor the situation and get intelligence from in that region besides Shia Muslims and Sunni Muslims? It's Israel. That's why they became reliant on Israel in that situation.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, honestly, Judaism is basically just Khazarian reincarnation of the Second Temple. It's a satanic religion that is.
You're saying that as a Jew?
Blood play.
That's a different argument. We're talking about.
No. I'm gonna get to this, and then with Islam, is Muhammad is a false prophet, and at the end of the day, I think all of the Middle East should just belong to Christianity. So it should just be split between either the Vatican or the Third Rome, which is, Orthodox Christianity. It's just it's basically like a playground where the Jew and the Muslim can't get along, they can't behave, so they need to be put in timeout indefinitely. And
that's okay. Now I'm gonna come back at that military-industrial complex of yours and say they were doing pretty well. The last war in the Middle East was 1973, which was kind of a fake war. It was just for Egypt to save face, and start literally right after Egypt started having direct relations with Israel. And in the Middle East, Shah of Iran was the leader of the Middle East. He created OPEC. He was turning the Middle East into an economic power. And his allies, he had two strong allies in doing that. They were turning the Middle East around. Malik Faisal of Saudi Arabia and Anwar Sadat of Egypt. Guess what happened to these three in a span of 5 years? Two of them were assassinated, one was overthrown.
And who did that?
Okay. Well, that's the thing. Soviets. No. So we know for a fact that in Iran, Soviet Union had over 30,000 agents because Iran, as a rising economy that was just reaching, even though it was way behind, it was still reaching Western European economies at the time. Lower tiers, but it was still reaching there in 1970s. The world, I don't know if you remember, was two blocks at the time. You had to either be allies with this one or that one. And the problem was we were neighbors to Soviet Union. And we were maintaining relationship with the West and Soviets. And Soviets didn't want that. So that's literally how the revolution in Iran happened, because socialists and Islamists allied themselves. And guess what? Where else this is happening? Everywhere else.
Yeah. Now.
And
I like that brings a smile to your face.
Yeah. Well, hey, Shah warned the West many times. It was like he was arresting suicide bombers. He was arresting ISIS before ISIS. He was arresting literally bombers who were killing people who burned 400 people in a cinema. They locked down the Cinema Rex in Abadan in Iran and burned it to the ground. 400 people were burned alive because they were watching a movie that had sexual tones. And they blamed the Shah for it. And New York Times and all of these newspapers and magazines, the interviews are there. You can go watch them, the interviews with Shah. And it's like they were all blaming Shah for, Savak, you're arresting people. It's like, these are terrible. They're actually killing people. And Shah said at the time, this is the alliance of the regressive left and the regressive Islamists. He called it the alliance of the dark and red, the black and red alliance. Because the Islam color is...
In school, they had us read that comic book, Persepolis. and they were saying that
Persepolis.
in that book they were saying that the Shah burned that down. I'm like, that doesn't seem like it. And then when
Persepolis was written by a socialist from a very socialist family.
But
that's
look
what
at
I'm
who
saying.
the publishers were. The publishers were Jews.
Yep. Any Iranian who gets international awards and Nobel Peace Prizes and stuff, that's not a representative of Iranians.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how do you feel about the Crown Prince? Because he's always kissing that wall and hanging out with rabbis. It don't look right, man. It doesn't.
No, I know what
genuine.
you're thinking. Okay. When you are starting, when you don't have any power and you need to gather allies, you have to start somewhere. And the only country, look, I understand a lot of people don't like it, but the only country in the world who understands the regime in Iran is Israel. Now, I understand the other aspects of Israel. I myself believe there's very different aspects to Israel. It's like the people paint it in a very homogeneous and I don't like
broad.
Simplifying things. Yeah, broad color. It's like I don't like simplifying things. Oh, these people are doing this thing. No, it's liberals everywhere do a lot of stupid stuff, and a lot of Jews in America are liberals.
Mm-hmm.
And but Israel itself, as an existential issue, it realizes that the regime in Iran, what the regime is doing, and now, you might not like it, that it might try to get America to get involved and all that stuff, but it doesn't take away from the fact that the perspective that they have on the regime in Iran as an Iranian who's lived in Iran for most of his life. All my family and friends are in Iran. We know that vision is true. That opinion is true. Now, you might have a different opinion. You say, why do I care? Okay. That's a valid point. Why do you care? But I can also say, hey, please stop funding this regime because they're killing my friends and family in Iran.
That's fair enough.
Stop
all right,
treating it
just
just another country.
All right, let's take another call here. Sorry, it's going to be a little janky tonight just because of the way that I have to answer the calls. So I apologize for that. I might cut you off briefly. And if you're trying to get through, keep trying. Hello, you're on a low value mail. Who am I speaking with?
I can't hear now. Okay, now I can.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, so I've got a couple questions. Maybe I'll preface this by saying I've been anti-war camp since 2009. I grew up with a neocon mom, so I did everything I could to research opposition. And I believe you referenced a document dump about Israel or Iran's nuclear program. Sorry, Freudian slip. And were you referencing the smoking laptop that was provided to the Mossad by the MEK?
No. Which one are you talking about?
It was a different document.
There were several.
I believe it was in close to 2010.
One of them was MEK. One of them was MEK. One of them was MEK. Yes.
Yeah.
And I hate MEK. I hate MEK.
What's MEK?
Cool.
What is MEK?
That was one thing I was going to ask.
Mujahideen, People's Mujahideen. It's an Islamist socialist hybrid group.
Oof.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
They have a lot of people
tough haircuts in that
the DC sphere.
It's a cult. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're nuts. Like what, Marjan Rajavi and those people?
Yeah. It's okay.
But one of the questions that I kind of always ask myself is cui bono. So I distrust all governments. That's the kind of
reasonable
very anarchist position, I guess, like ANCAP.
Yeah.
And so I distrust the mullahs. I distrust the Iranian government, but I also distrust the Israeli and Saudi governments too. And you talked about what's going on in Yemen, and one of the things that I hear a lot of talk about is, oh well, the the Houthis are Shia and the Iranians are Shia, but they're different types of Shia. They're what, Twelvers and Zaidi, I think. And so I think I think that this like loose tying of Sunni versus Shia is very sloppy in terms of like foreign policy.
It's a state. It's not like a spontaneous and natural thing. It's the regime. I told you, like literally, this is IRGC's actual policy. Find centers of Shia. It doesn't matter what kind of Shia they are. Even if they're Sunni and they're against the majority Sunni, they will support them. It doesn't matter what type of Shia or what type of Sunni. If they fit their program and their basically intentions, they will support and fund them. It's not a natural Shia.
Sorry, I'm not saying the IRGC's policy. I'm talking like American media and Western media tends to go Sunni versus Shia, while not understanding the nuances.
Absolutely.
And I think that I could explain the Iranian support for the Houthis solely by saying the Iranians dislike the Saudis, and the Houthis are fighting against like was it Hadi who was the Saudi stooge? Because I think Ali Abdullah Saleh was the original leader who, the Houthis tried to oust. He fled. But effectively, does it have to be terrorism? Because from what I've heard, from Scott Horton's interviewed a dude who lives in Sana'a a bunch, and he's basically said that everyone in Yemen says we're all Houthi now because it's not a internal struggle anymore. It's representative of, do we control our country or does Saudi Arabia? And I think that, you see that in Iran too. Like, when was Ahmadinejad more popular than ever? Well, it's when George Bush said he's part of the axis of evil. And I would argue that any time you have an arrayed force against the country, there's a rally around the flag effect, which serves to negate the purpose of whatever you're doing. So wouldn't it be better to bring them to the table to build? Wouldn't it be better to bring them to the table and introduce Westernism through trade, or that's always been a more convincing argument to me.
Did Westernism work with China?
You could make the argument that it did because their economy is hyper performant.
Yeah, but
in some ways they're freer than in America.
That's the funny thing to say. You can't draw a Winnie the Pooh in China, while in America, podcaster goes after everybody in the government and everybody in the regime, and they have a lot of followers and stuff. There are levels to this. It's very irresponsible to look. I understand that in America there are suppressions of speech. There are basically the military-industrial complex has lied to American people to nth degree, from Vietnam, from Korea, Vietnam, all that stuff, the COVID, all that stuff. I understand that. But still, when somebody says, it's like sound like Whoopi Goldberg saying, "Oh, black people in America and women in Iran is like this." It's like, bitch, you have no fucking idea what it's like to walk in the street in Iran. I was lashed for walking next to a girl, not holding hands and making out, walking with a girl on the beach.
What were you wearing?
Okay. It was very revealing.
Damn.
But no, because somebody came and bothered her, and I said something, and then that guy had a relative in the IRGC, and he called that guy to just fuck with us, just like that.
Yeah.
And they came and arrested us and took us away.
And you get
you don't understand. I'll give you an example. In America, now they are trying to change that, like with the chaos and all the riots and stuff. That's the way to change that. But usually things go the way they should. When you're crossing a road, when you're going through a road and there's a smaller road with a stop sign, you're not afraid that a truck is just going to come and hit you when you're passing it. You know, people respect that stop sign. In Iran, there's a truck on every corner. You don't know where you might get it from. It's ridiculous. When comparing that America to China in sense of censorship and all that, it's just, it comes from not really, and I don't blame you, but not understanding what it's like to live under totalitarianism, absolute totalitarianism
No,
that has
so
succeeded.
So I can't
In America,
speak to
some
living under
want to become
totalitarianism.
totalitarian. Pardon?
So I can't speak to knowing what it's like to live under totalitarianism, but I'm fairly well traveled. I've been to a lot of Latin America. I lived in, different European countries for a while. I've traveled fairly decently for an American. But what I'm saying is that, one, this isn't a greenfield thing. The Americans have run regime change in Iran. Like that's what led to the '79 revolution. Was most of the day being overthrown at the behest of BP by the CIA.
No, actually, I explained that.
'79 revolution was.
Hold on, let's see.
The '79 revolution.
Hold on, let's see.
Yeah, '79 revolution was CIA and Soviet Union run because Shah had created OPEC and had basically the Middle Eastern countries had control of the price of oil. That was one of the main reasons for '79 revolution. Not because Mossadegh, who was appointed by Shah, legally was removed by Shah. There was no coup in Iran, dude. That's what I was explaining in the beginning of the thing. That when the socialists ran academia, why did CIA, who always denies involvement in things, proudly pumps its chest and says, yeah, we did the coup in Iran forever. Why? Because it was very early on, and it was one of the reasons CIA became CIA. That's how you get funded, and that's how you become bigger. You claim responsibility for things that you really didn't have any role in. Iranian army removed Mossadegh because he usurped power illegally. Iranian constitution from that time exists. Anybody can find it and see it was Mossadegh who usurped power. And the army removed him. Very simply. There was no coup against a democratically elected government. There was no democracy in Iran. Iran was a semi-democracy. Prime ministers were appointed by the Shah, not elected by the people. This is what I'm talking about.
I got a different. Well, I've gotten a different story from
everybody.
I've listened
every
to
university, every
Iranian
pundit.
Well, I've listened to different Iranian perspectives on it. Like there's a professor at UCSF named Mohammad Sahimi, who's a professor of chemical engineering, who's written about the Iranian nuclear program and what it is and what it isn't. And he's talked about the Iranian Revolution and like.
There's another professor, Marandi. There's another professor, Dehbashi. They're all in the media and very popular. And guess what? All Iranians know these are mouthpieces of the Islamic Republic.
Even living in the United States?
Especially living in the United States. Code Pink. Do you know Code Pink's ties to the Islamic Republic?
I don't know what Code Pink is. I don't even know what
Code Pink is a lefty, hardcore feminist group.
And they have ties to the
IR people.
Yeah. They have direct ties to the Islamic Republic.
Jesus.
You don't know that. How do you think they spend their money on? You think only you can do propaganda?
No, what I'm saying is that I tend to like, and this is the line of argumentation which I tend to dislike, which is anyone who says something that's pro-Iranian regime, they must be bought and paid for, but anyone that stands against it, well, they're clearly independent thinkers. And I just dislike this argumentation because it almost seeks to build it's a non-falsifiable construct.
That's totally understandable.
No one has agency to speak for themselves, and it kind of just how do you argue against it? Well, they have ties to the Iranian regime, so. Okay, well, what about this person? Well, they also have ties to the Iranian regime. It's like, well,
a regime that kills 15, at least 15. We have 4,000 names. In 2019, November 2019, okay, The regime killed at least 1,500 people in 3 days, protesters. They forced people in Mashhad in Iran, they forced over 200 protesters into marshes. 17 of them were children. People, some of them were just going to the market, they got stuck in the crowd. Forced them into the marshes, machine gunned them. Did you hear about it? Do you think a regime that has common sense and sometimes says logical things does this to its unarmed? Iranians are not armed. No guns among Iranians. To unarmed protesters? Any regime that massacres its people by the thousands, I don't give a shit what the other point of view is. Trust me, there were thousands of journalists in the West defending Stalin at the time. Lenin and Stalin at the time. Hitler at the time. Okay? You're talking about democracy. You're talking about living. No, your point of view is point of view in a democracy. Yes, in a democracy where you can say what you want online and Danny can say what he wants online and everybody can say whatever the hell they want. Yes. Treating somebody.
That's not true, though, because Danny literally said earlier.
What?
Danny literally. What was the first thing you said when Slav called in? Is I'm probably going to get a strike for this.
No, I didn't say I'm going to get a strike. I made a rule that it's I'm not going to get a strike. The episode's going to get demonetized. Slav is an absolute serial line stepper on this shit. And I essentially made a rule that if you get the episode demonetized, you're on a 2-week break. Again, I'm not running this like a fucking democracy. No. This is authoritarian shit right here. Don't get it twisted.
Oh no, Danny, but like the point I was trying to make is that you say that the U.S. government isn't imposing speech restriction. But
I didn't say it doesn't. I know Facebook
through big tech.
Yep.
Yeah, but that's soft power.
Yes.
Sure.
Where that came from is they got hauled before Congress, and it was said, hey, we're going to revoke a lot of the benefits that you have that allow you to have kind of, quote unquote,
you're answering your own
face repercussions.
Yeah, but also this isn't soft power.
You're answering
that kind of
your
thing.
own argument.
Because also it's like YouTube is serving ads from fucking Bounty dryer sheets, and probably Bounty dryer sheets does not want to be like serving ads and Slavs like calling me a kike. And I just might have got my own show demonetized. But anyways, that's my point.
But no, you answered your own argument. Still, it becomes a thing in a country like America. It becomes a controversy. It gets to the Congress. Okay? You have a president elected that nobody wanted elected. They threw everything at the guy. And you still were able to have that guy. Now, I don't know how much of
barely
basically he's going to do, but still, there is still your system. That's the beauty of American system. It's designed so beautifully by such great men that it's still, you can still get there and do some change. But totalitarian systems are the exact opposite. In American this is the difference. This is the complete difference that I'm talking about. In American system, the founding fathers of America sat down and said, okay, how else can the government screw the people over? Write it down. How else? Write it down. Everything they could think of, they wrote down to prevent the government from. In a totalitarian system, it's literally the other way around. How can people screw with us? Shut it down. How else can they screw with us? Shut it down. So do you understand? Yes, bad people everywhere will try to turn every system into totalitarian. But the system itself allows a lot of basically fight back.
Sure.
In America, you have that fight back. I'm not saying you don't have totalitarians in America. You do. But the system really messes them up. It's really annoying to them, the system.
Fair enough.
I agree.
Yeah.
I just think that if there is a regime change to happen, it has to come from within Iran. And it just feels disingenuous when you have Israel going on TV saying, well, we're going to bomb them, and America, you should help. And then you immediately have, Reza Pahlavi going on TV being like, "Oh, I'd be happy to step in again as the
Reza
leader
Pahlavi
if,
is the
you
most
guys wanted to."
popular is the most popular political opposition leader in Iran. Over 80% of Iranian political prisoners in prison right now support Reza Pahlavi. Millions and millions of everybody who's activist in Iran, majority of them, absolute majority. As I said, we talked about this earlier in the video. You can check Instagram. The only videos that get over 1 million likes are the videos supporting Pahlavi. Okay? Pahlavi's role is a different thing. It's not in this context. He just wanted to basically mention that, yeah, you can't just make a decision on Iran amongst yourselves. That was the point that he was making. And Israel and America will not get involved too much directly. Don't worry about it. But killing the heads of the army who have killed a lot of Israelis too. And I saw the buildings that they shot at. It's like some of them literally hit the bedroom. None of the other parts of the building was damaged. So Iranians are not mad about that. I'm sorry, but they're not.
Yeah. All right, caller, I gotta let you go. Thanks, man. All right. Let's take another call here. Hold on a second. Let me patch you through. A moment, please. All right, you're on with Sia. Go ahead. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, is my voice going through pretty well?
Yeah, we can hear you great.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right, I have a few questions for the guy there. I'm also from Iran originally, so I know exactly as he is saying, from a I know what I'm talking about perspective. So this is kind of the same thing. Let me kind of ask you a few questions.
When you say originally, what does it mean, by the way?
You were born there?
It means I was born there, and I moved to the U.S. when I was very little, and then I moved back.
How old were you?
And right now I live in the U.S.
How old were you when you moved out of Iran? I'm just asking.
I was.
Well, he has no accent.
Well, the first time I left, I was 8.
Oh, okay.
And
okay,
then
so you didn't live in Iran. You were a child.
No, listen, please. I lived in Iran for my middle school years, high school years, and multiple years after university. That's a pretty good amount. I lived there. Anyway, but listen, that's not even the point. The point is, even if I didn't live in Iran, the fact that you who did want somebody else from the outside to come and attack your own country, that is just so.
No, I don't want that. That's you're saying something that I didn't say.
Okay. So then you want them to create a false revolution because the government is killing people, right?
No.
Okay.
That's not.
Then okay. What is it that you were saying? Because all I hear.
It's very simple. It's very simple what I said. No, you don't hear that. You just came here with a thing to say something. I explained things before.
Please.
IRGC is involved militarily in all of the region. So when Israel strikes back at IRGC, who officially, the funny thing about IRGC, everybody calls it Iranian Revolutionary Guard, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Islamic Revolution Guard. Its one job is to protect the revolution from the people. That's its job. One time, somebody in Iran, some newspaper in Iran called it the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. IRGC released a statement, said there is no Iran in our name. Okay?
Right.
So when the heads of IRGC, that work, no, I'm not.
The guy that you love.
I'm not finished.
Hold on. Caller, let him listen. I'm going to have to hang up on you if you don't let him talk.
I'm answering your question. You said you're happy that they're attacking your country. They're not attacking my country. They're killing the military leaders who's spending billions of dollars of our money, the youth of our children, on their abroad, the international ambitions. So when you attack Israeli,
what do you think America's doing?
I don't care. I care about what happens in Iran.
He's not American. He's not American. He's first off, he's not American.
But everything is relative.
I said
But you
anything
want
that
somebody
Americans
from America
feel.
to come and do the same thing over
I
there.
said no. Americans.
Hold on, just 1 second. You guys got to take turns talking, otherwise this is unlistenable.
Yeah, if you let me finish first.
Let him finish, and then you can talk.
My bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, before the what about, what I'm saying is, IRGC is doing military operations and activities in all of the region. Israel, and the direct target of it is Israel. So Israel attacks IRGC leaders and kills them. Israel hasn't bombed Iranian cities. If it had bombed civilians, I would be the first one to yell.
Well, they
online.
did because they got hospitals.
No, they didn't.
Israel bombed hospitals in Iran?
No, they didn't.
Yes,
the site. These are all the same stuff that comes out.
Everything's bullshit. Listen.
No, there isn't any.
Hold on,
there isn't any evidence. Yeah, bombed
There's a
hospitals.
lot of cliches that you keep repeating. I'm not a pro-Islamic Republic guy. This is not. Hello?
No, you are somebody who lost your identity, and now you feel a nostalgia about Iran, and you mix it with the regime. I've dealt with your type before.
This is not a black and white issue, though. Listen, you realize that so many people were pro the Iraq war, and now they're begging for him to come back. And now you're like, oh, they're so bad, they're killing 1,500 people in the streets. You know what's going on in Iraq right now?
Iran is not Iraq. The fact that you don't understand how different Iran is from Iraq. Iraq's borders was drawn on the map.
So much better than the Iraqis.
No, that's what you don't understand. When you don't understand Iran, when you don't understand Iran,
you understand that Israel wants to separate or make sure that there are no big powerful countries around it. You understand this?
No, that's not a thing. Some people in Israel might want that. This is what you don't get. Yes, 20 members of.
All right, I had to let him go. It's just you guys can't talk over each other, unfortunately. Let's try and take another caller here. I wanted to let him go, but you guys if you guys talk over the guest, then it's literally impossible to hear anything. Hold on.
Hello.
Hey, what's up? Hold on. All right, you're on with Sia. Go ahead. Oh,
hello. Hey, I want to ask you a question. What's his name?
Sia.
Sorry, I forgot. Cia. What's your opinion on like a lot of people in Iran and around that area, more than just Iran, about them saying like death to America, death to Israel? What's your opinion on those people? I'm guessing you're going to say you're against them, but are you against them?
I'm gonna send you videos. I'm gonna send you videos of Iranians in many different schools, universities, public places. The regime draws American flag on the floor so people step on it. I'll send you dozens of videos showing people going around it. Death to America is the regime's chant. Iranian people have separated themselves from the regime a long time ago. It's the West that can't do that. We know this regime is not ours.
Oh, sorry.
What?
Sorry, I was just gonna say in America, yes, we have people stomping on American flags in America, but they are on a watch list, and the no terrorist groups are able to look at Antifa, what's going on. Like, it's obvious they're not able to form. So what about like what do you think? Like what do you do anything to solve the formation that's going on, these terrorist groups in Iran that are saying death to America, death to Israel? Is there what's your opinion on
terrorist group? It's the regime. It's the regime.
What does Iran do to stop it?
To stop what?
To stop these groups that are saying death to America and death to Israel and death to, I don't know what other country, maybe there's probably a bunch of countries, but what does Iran's government do to stop that?
The government is the regime. That's what he's trying to tell you. It is the regime. It is the government, essentially.
The government does it.
Yeah, like the government
the regime's chant is death to America.
Oh, so you're pro change of regime, right? With Iran?
Yeah, as a former political prisoner, yeah.
Okay, well, everybody that's listening, y'all got them all wrong then. What the heck?
What? Nobody has watched this interview and thinks he's pro
Only
Iranian
the guy
regime.
before who didn't watch from the beginning, and yeah.
I mean, if you've watched this for even 5 minutes, he's not pro Iranian regime. He's against them. He was a political prisoner in Iran.
Yeah, well, no, I was just mainly focusing on the people that are calling in, and they're like going crazy at you.
Well, the last guy was
like,
kind of the only one, to be honest.
Yeah, the last guy was like, that's the thing.
Like 30 minutes.
Sorry, say that again?
Oh, I started watching like 30 minutes ago.
Okay.
Also, I wanted to also ask, so do you live in Iran or?
No, I live in Canada.
Well, right now I live in Canada. In 2017, actually, I was in line for open mic. You guys were there, Danny.
Yeah, at the Corner Comedy Club. That's how we met. Yeah.
When I got the news that I was labeled as one of the 30 traitors to the Islamic Republic by the IRGC. So
Crazy.
no, I can't go back to Iran.
Yeah, you can't go back. Well, maybe at some point you can, depending on how things
Well, yeah,
go.
hopefully.
Hopefully you can go back.
Yeah. No, the change in Iran will happen through the people. We don't want war or all-out war, and it's just not. Like, it's stupid for America to get involved. Like, the thing that our friends was talking about, Syria and like Iraq and stuff, that's something that everybody says, oh, look at those. Okay, Syria and Iraq were created by the British Empire after World War. They're drawn on the map. You can see the ruler, literally straight lines. Iran doesn't have straight lines. Iran is the oldest multicultural country in the world. Every ethnic group you see in it at some point has ruled the country. Iranians are Iranians. There's a very strong sense of national identity in Iran that doesn't exist in any other Arab countries because they've been basically a Islamic nation. They consider themselves nation of Islam. So these maps that were drawn like 80, 90 years ago doesn't mean much because it doesn't root in their history. Ours goes back 2,500 years. These people have bled with each other for 2,500 years. No matter what somebody says, oh, Iran has become Syria. No. Sunnis and Shias in Iran live. We've never, in 2,500, we've never had in Iran, we've never had a sectarian genocide or war because you're Iranian first. That's what people don't understand, and they keep bringing up
and I guess
Syria.
regimes, governments come and go, right?
One last good question. One last question, and then I'm done.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you like agree or support like how Donald Trump is taking this situation with Iran and Israel? And if not, like what do you think he could do differently, or how he should have done it?
Well, okay, there's a reality and there's what I want. The reality, I believe, is Trump had always said the way to deal with this regime is with force, and that was the correct way. Now, the 3 sites that the regime hit, that Trump hit, are his concerns, his main concerns, nuclear bomb. And he hit them, and his base doesn't want his involvement more than that. And I understand that. I don't have any expectation from Trump to do this or that. I don't want a war, an all-out war in Iran. All-out war doesn't serve anything. But I believe just not funding the regime the way Trump did in the first term that he did, completely strangled the regime financially, that is the best way to deal with this regime.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, which he did, and it seemed somewhat successful.
Yeah, so you are a Trump supporter. I want all great like presidents or anyone that I want them to do good. Obviously, like everyone. So like if I live in a country, I was a Biden supporter as well. I want my president to do well. You know what I mean?
No, you're an American. You want your president to do well.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm a president supporter. All right, I'll just say I'm a president.
Old school, man. Yeah. Just whoever's in charge.
That's a very patriotic position.
Yeah. I mean, it is the proper position.
Yeah. But when a regime in Iran, some people don't understand, when a regime in Iran literally says, remove Iranian identity from history books, we're not Iran, we're a nation of Muslims. And Iranians have always been Iranians first. That's why we became Shiite, because we didn't want to be considered part of the Muslims. The only countries, Egypt, with 5,000 years of history, became Arabized. They speak Arabic. Arab nationalism started in Egypt in 20th century. Iran never became Arabized. Iranians still speak their own language.
Right.
That's the difference. That's the strength of the identity.
I just want to say, Alessi, because I'm going to get off. I know there's probably more calls. Dude, nice talking to you. Thank you for taking my call.
God bless you, man. God bless you.
Yeah, God bless you as well, man. Like, yeah, don't be calling in, guys, and freaking getting crazy at this guy, dude.
Don't worry about it, dude.
Oh, he can handle it.
When you get punched in the face repeatedly, some words doesn't hurt your feelings.
Yeah. All right, thanks, man.
Yeah, exactly. Sticks and stones, man. All right, later.
Okay, we're gonna take one last call here, and then we're gonna wrap it up. We're over time as it is. 1 second, please. And hold on. All right, you're on with Sia. Last call of the night. Let's go.
Hey, what's up, Danny? It's Conspiracy Extreme.
What's up, buddy? How you been, man?
What's up, bud?
I've been great. Yeah, this is a fascinating conversation. I don't think it's going to top your last one with Justin Nemo. So
how dare you?
Impossible.
How dare you, sir?
But good news, Danny. Apparently, you're not Jewish, according to Dustin, because you've got the best Jew radar.
He's got the best Jew radar in the game, and he says I'm not Jewish, and he says Slav was Jewish. So 2 wins.
Welcome to the white team. Welcome to Team White. Anyways, I do have a question. So I've been listening to the whole show, so I understand your stance on, and not necessarily that you're encouraging any influence for a regime change, but it does sound like that's would be, in your opinion, make a better country for them. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Are you familiar with the clean break memo? I think it's that one.
Refresh my memory. I'm not off the top.
Yeah, I think it was, I want to say like Wesley Clark. I might get some of the names incorrect, but essentially the point of it is that it was recommended by Benjamin Netanyahu, and essentially we need to go in and do some sort of regime change in 7 different countries. And then it was Iraq, Iran, I think Sudan, anyways, Afghanistan. Yeah, so Iran was the only country left that we have not been involved in, I guess, a direct regime change, as far as I understand. How do you square that with, the situation you're in? Because from my point of view, it does sound like it feels like between America and Israel, definitely Israel, I would say for sure, wants to weaken that entire area so they can be stronger. And they've kind of insisted that America goes in and starts these wars. And now it just giving me a feeling like with us bombing those nuclear sites, it's just it's the last one on the list that we're going to go in and try to affect.
I understand that. I totally understand. As I said, look, there's different angles to this. There is different perspective from different nationalities. If you're an American patriot, you will have a different perspective on this. Okay, so I understand the perspective that you're presenting. My thing is, okay, somebody has a stepfather who beats the shit out of him and molests him every day. Now, there's a neighbor who, I don't know, wants this guy's money or whatever, comes in and beats the shit out of the guy. The child will still benefit. Okay, that Iranian people are that child right now. They don't have any weapons. Every time they go to the street to overthrow this regime, they get massacred. So this regime's policies has led to Israel taking out its leaders. I don't care about the implications that it might have. Like, yes, some people are afraid America would get into war. I explained that I don't think that's realistic. Iraq is a third of Iran's size, and it was way worse in division-wise. Iranians are way more united. And as I said, it's a big country. Military, like all-out war and stuff, doesn't make any sense.
Right. So I would just say that from my perspective, I mean, I highly doubt that Israel is encouraging this or their incestuous relationship with our government to get us to participate because of Iran's like policy and how they'll treat their people. I don't think they give a shit about how Iran treats their people. Now, obviously, it's cruel, but Israel just wants that area to be weaker, and we've lost so many of our Americans in wars, and it's just from our perspective, just like, oh, here we go again. It's like the same old story. That's why I think you're getting a lot of pushback on this, is because
absolutely, as I said, I don't want American boots on the ground, and I don't want another war. I don't think that works. I don't care what that memo believes or whatever. I disagree. I believe, well, some of the countries in the Middle East have changed literally drastically, like Saudi Arabia, policy-wise. It's the things that they have changed. It's like, it's weird that nobody talks about. It's like women are allowed to have opera in Saudi Arabia now. That's literally
what we call that progress.
Dude, that's directly
backwards.
No, you don't understand. It's directly against the text of Quran. It's like popes. From now on, we can have gay priests. That's how big it is in concept of this is the home of Islam.
Right.
These are the holders.
That's way worse.
It's so big that basically they're now having ballets and like all sorts of things. It's like changing its style because they said that. They said, okay, look, in response to Iran, the regime's basically exporting terrorism to other Arab countries in the region, we, for a while, started to support Wahhabism as a response, Wahhabi terrorism. And that was a mistake. In the first term of Trump, he went to Saudi Arabia, the first visit that he had, he went to Saudi Arabia, and I don't know what happened. But literally 6 months after that, women could drive and like all sorts of things started to change in Saudi Arabia. So yes, some of those countries have changed. The regime in Iran has not changed. And the fact that Israel, like that memo said that thing, it doesn't take away from the fact that from the Iranian people's perspective, anything that weakens the regime strengthens them because they have a very strong sense of national identity and patriotism. And it's not Iraq, it's not Syria, it's not any other country.
Yeah,
and I think that some people like we don't realize like you're not Arab, right? I mean, we see a lot of the people in the but like we are not. Right, but I think a lot of us we're kind of a little shocked when when you're talking like saying some nice things about Israel and stuff because we see like the brutality that they have against Arabs. I mean, Israel like absolutely hates Arabs.
Riddle me this: why isn't all these Arab countries who are so heartbroken? You think Arab Muslims are so heartbroken? None of them are letting Palestinian refugees in the past 30, 40 years. What happened to Lebanon when it allowed Palestinian refugees in? You know?
Well, so what are you? No, go ahead. Yeah, I don't know.
It's a very unfortunate situation. A group of people living under, again, totalitarianism, but it's not like a state. It's just like groups. That it changes people, and it takes a long time for them to change. And they have a mentality that is not conducive to living in peace with other countries. That's why Egypt blocked its border. That's why Syria doesn't let them get out. That's why Jordan still has camps, keeps them there. That's why, because it's a different group of people. Arabs are not as heartbroken about this as people are in the West. It's Middle East. It's been blood after blood for thousands of years. That's how you respond to blood in the Middle East. Just because Israel is westernized, you guys think Israel should act like very nice and no. Israel is a Middle Eastern country, and it knows this is how you respond in the Middle East. It's just the mind of Westerners because they think Israel is a Western country just because it is westernized.
I mean, there's a lot of Western people there, but
yeah. Here's the thing. So I don't want to be disrespectful, but I mean, I think that is not the. I totally disagree with that take. It sounds like Israeli propaganda, but I understand what you're saying. But Israel is not full of Middle Easterners. Israel is full of like Polish fucking.
No, it's still
Jews.
that's not true. It's like they're still the Europeans are still a minority there. They're not an insignificant part of the population, but it's still dominated. Their government. I don't know that that's true. I mean, if you're not differentiating between like the Mizrahi Jews who are like essentially Arabs.
Not here to defend it.
I mean, Netanyahu, yes, but
the job of Israelis to defend their government. My concern is the impact that basically this clash again is not between Iranians. It's between the regime and its ambitions and Israel. It's not about even what's right and what's wrong. It's about this regime has these ambitions and it got punched in the face. Iranian people feel, okay, after October 7, the day after October 7, in a big stadium in Tehran, there was a football match and the regime in the halftime, brought out big Palestinian flags because of the of October 7 and started basically chanting. You know what? Tens of thousands of Iranians in the stadium. And mind you, these are middle to lower middle class that go to soccer games in Iran. You know what they chanted? The video is up there. Shove that Palestinian flag up your ass, up your ass.
Really? Never saw
the
that.
chants posted. There's many of them. In university, they went out there, death to Israel. The students chant death to Palestine. Not because they hate Palestinians. It's just that because they know death to Israel is the regime's message. So they have to go exactly opposite of it.
It's like punk rock to say death to Palestine.
You hate us and you hate Israel. And you love Palestine. So we're going to say death to Palestine.
Right.
It's not about undying love for Israel. It's about the fact that the only country that takes the regime seriously and basically treats it like the enemy is Israel. So Iranian people, who are the only people who see the regime as the enemy, kind of feel
the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. Well, I do appreciate you giving your perspective on this. I don't think you're going to get a lot of agreement with the people who watch the show, but it's nothing personal. But I do appreciate you brought some really good information that and a perspective that a lot of people haven't heard.
Yeah, there's not a lot of sources, but you can find something.
All right, later, man.
All right.
Dylan in the chat says, ask him about the Chalabi overthrowing Saddam for Israel to be able to buy oil from Iran through secret pipelines. Does he know anything about Israel stealing the Eilat Ashkelon pipeline from Iran? Anything?
No. Chalabi?
Chalabi? Overthrowing Saddam for Israel? I don't know. No idea. All right. Well, you know what? We're going to wrap this up right here. Sia, because we went way over time anyways. Where can people find you?
Where?
Nowhere.
You will never find anywhere.
St. Catharines, Ontario.
But that's it. I'm not like an active.
Yeah, you're not a big active on. Well, thank you for coming on here, man. This is a. Oh, you know what? We got to take one more call because this is someone who I'm legitimately concerned about. And one moment, please. Chris, are you there?
Yes, I am, in fact.
1 second, please. All right, Chris, before you're on with Sia, Chris, happy belated birthday. How are you doing? I'm not going to lie, I've been kind of...
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I've been worried about you because we haven't heard from you in a couple weeks. I think other people have been worried about you, too.
Don't say that. No, in fact, things have been good. And,
great. I mean, legitimately, some of us thought you were dead.
Get out of town, Charlie Brown.
Yeah, we hadn't heard from you.
Oh, man, that hurts my heart to hear.
Well, we didn't hear from you. You were supposed to call
anyone
back.
Undue stress.
Yeah, you were supposed to hear from you. How's the situation?
I suppose you were. Yeah, that's unfortunate timing. However, like I said, I've been looking forward to this call. The situation is going well.
Great.
I'm back on my own 2 feet, and Things are light years better than they were prior in our previous calls. So
great.
That's,
glad to hear it.
Yeah,
glad to
happy
hear it.
to provide that update.
Okay.
And I'm thrilled to see this guest on.
Yeah.
I saw that this low value mail was postponed till Thursday, and you certainly made up for it with this guest selection.
Yeah.
So,
see you as the man.
Yeah, I want to say hello to him and thank him for coming on low value mail.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's just a crazy time, huh, Danny? Hey, Danny, once more, I ought to tell you, the intros you do prior to taking calls and eventually introducing the guest, I'd suggest you increase that. Man, you're so good at that.
I feel like you know what's funny
like,
is you're like, you want it to be longer. My mom watches this show sometimes and she's like, you're talking for too long. I'm like, it's like 20 minutes. She's like, too long.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Honestly, there have been a number of episodes where it's like the highlight of the show, and I'll go back and rewatch them weeks later. Like, I remember in particular you predicting the tariff situation ahead of time.
Yeah.
And so
that was kind of my high water mark. Hold on, we lost Sia's video. I hope it didn't lose.
So eventually, when this stuff came to fruition, and you could go back and view your prediction, which was spot on.
Yeah.
Like, that was a great episode. Hearing your update and stuff. I don't know. At least as I see it, I think you ought to increase those interests just because I think you do a really good job at it. Like,
yeah, the problem is the show would just be like so fucking long then too, because I want to have the open lines thing afterwards, and I mean we're already almost at 3 hours right now.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah, I'm trying
for that reason, I'll keep it tight.
Yeah. But go ahead. Do you have any questions for Sia?
Yeah, I certainly do. I mean, I have a number of them. Dude, I'm just so mind fucked by all of this stuff. Like, and most recently, just learning that these countries are, I mean, these warnings that they're sending one another, which is just, we're going to bomb this location at this time, remove your guys out of there, by this.
Well, they did the exact same thing with Soleimani, though, right? When they killed Soleimani, didn't they literally, Iran was like, we have to retaliate, but they don't want to start a whole thing. So they go, we're going to bomb your base just because we can't be like a bitch. So we have to do something. And they go, this is where it is. You can clear everybody out and we'll just fucking blow up some like runway or something. And then you just go, just so they can say they did something. Otherwise you look weak, right?
That's exactly it. I mean, and these strikes, they result in a little bit of property damage, right? Like you said, they dent like a runway that will be up again that same week. And I just don't know, man. So much of this is, like I mentioned, it's just kind of mindfucked me. And for instance, when I grew up, when I was in school and stuff, when I heard ballistic missiles, now I was thinking like ICBMs, what you're learning about in 7th grade history class. I just assumed this meant like big boom. As far as conventional weapons are concerned, like not tactical nukes, just, the warheads being attached to ballistic missiles and fired at one another. I've been really underwhelmed at like just how small these, like the destruction from some of these ballistic missiles are. Anyways, that's besides the point. I mentioned I had some questions and I want to get to them.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's see. I had them written down. I guess, like on the ground in Iran right now, what's the sentiment for seeing an Israeli and a U.S.-backed regime change? If you had to estimate, like, where exactly would you gauge the temperature at for the Iranian population and how they'd feel about externally backed regime change?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's realistic. The Israelis might take out a lot of the leaders, but the regime still has the power. Now, the problem is they don't have people who can really plan and guide and organize things. But the regime change, at the end, the regime might get weak, but the people will overthrow the regime. And people are all for it. People don't want an all-out war. I don't think anybody wants all-out war. Nobody wants the bombs on civilians or anything. But when you consider this regime your enemy and you fought against it and you've been defeated over and over and over again, you kind of is, again, the enemy of my enemy. It's like, okay, I'm going to take advantage of this situation.
Yeah.
So
how big is the Iranian army?
It's about, I think, over 1 million.
Oh, okay.
But the thing
Pretty
is, as I
sizable.
said, the regime cannot trust the army. Soldiers in barracks they don't give them weapons. In barracks, they don't give them weapons because the military, the army, is draft. Every Iranian, as I said, has to serve in the army. And now that the regime knows most of the people have risen against it several times, it knows it can't trust them. So whenever there is a protest or something, they bring their militias from other countries that they've been funding.
Right.
To crack down on the people. So that's why I wrote an article in National Post that the last time that there was missiles coming and going. And I said the regime will never get into an all-out war because it's more scared of its own people. Because in an all-out war, you need your soldiers, and you can't trust those soldiers.
That's crazy.
That's why
that seems like a very untenable position.
That's why Israel is so bold, because it knows that the regime cannot fight back.
Yeah, they just can't fight back.
Yeah, when your military is draft and not a permanent military, you have to trust just the average population. And when the average population loves and celebrates when you die, you can't give them weapons. That's
crazy.
Problem. That's right now.
That is crazy. I never knew that. That's crazy.
My next question, I suppose, would be like, once again, just sort of gauging the temperature over there. Are Iranians, are you guys still emotionally invested in the Palestinian cause during the war? Or has it kind of become like this sort of abstract justification for a conflict that you guys never asked for? So, like that revolutionary anti-Zionist, is it hollow right now, or what's that like?
Did you just? I think you just joined because
you just joined. We just talked about it. Basically, they don't give a. They don't like the Palestinians.
Understood. Okay. Yeah. So
people don't.
Do you expect anti-Semitism, not just the anti-Zionism, the state-backed stuff, but like hatred of Jews? Do you expect that to increase, to skyrocket? How do you feel that
in Iran
plays out? Precisely.
Are there a lot of Jews in Iran?
Iran, at the time of the revolution, Iran had one of the most population of Jews because during the World War II, the Shah of Iran gave refuge to a lot of European Jews. And but after the revolution, we had about 100,000. Now there's like 8,000, and they're very, very closely monitored and controlled by people of their own in charge.
Right.
But no, Jews are after people. I'd say about 2016, when people completely broke up from the government, and every one of their basically slogans. Israel was the last one, and people broke up with that too. That's when the shove the Palestinian flag up your ass to the regime came from.
Yeah.
The last one. Hijab was the first one, mandatory hijab. America was another one. People chanted, they say our enemy is America. It's here. It's here.
Do they get Western media in Iran at all? Like movies and stuff?
Dishes came. The regime cracked down on them really hard, but it just lost.
Yeah, it was just they couldn't. Like, can you get YouTube there?
They would take it, and no YouTube you can't. With some filter, some good proxies. Sometimes you can, yeah.
Yeah.
But you have good proxies, and every time there is something going on, the regime either shuts down the internet completely to the whole country, or really slows it down.
Right. So it's just kind of useful.
Or anything.
That's a trip. And last one, what about like the Gen Z, the Zoomers? How do they feel about Israel and in this war?
they have no actually animosity towards Israel because it's not their thing. They're the fourth generation after the revolution, and the past 3 generations have gotten over that anti-Semitism that exists in Islam. So this Gen Z they grew up with internet. So this generation is completely different. Just like the Western generation, you see the previous generations were more liberal when they were young. These ones are more conservative. That generation is also very different. Very, very quick to smell bullshit. They're very hip.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. All right, Chris.
Wow.
Anything else, man?
Yep. Good looking out. Nope. I'm all set. I appreciate the guest and thanks for a great episode, Danny.
Good talking to you. Glad you're well, man. All right. That has actually been the show. Thank you again, Sia, for coming on here. Appreciate it very much. It was good catching up. And yeah, people can't follow you anywhere. So that's that.
That's it. I'm done. Twitter, yeah.
No Substack, nothing?
You.
No, 0. Okay. Cool, man. Thanks, buddy. It's good talking to you. See you soon. See ya, Savafi. What's that?
You want to chat a bit afterwards?
Yeah. I'll talk to you afterwards. Okay, later, buddy.
Thanks, everybody.
Later. See ya, Savafi. Everybody. All right, that has been that's been the show. I'm about to piss my pants, as always. That's how it goes. Just gonna read some super chats here. We got a couple from Tony Coriola. Says nothing, and then for Slav, Anton says, "Damn the J, God bless America." Second Amendment. This caller sounds like a commie. They want to be liberated by God's country, USA. And then Anton says, "Ask him about the true God, the almighty dollar." I don't know. All right, that's been the show, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me on this Thursday installment of Low Value Mail. We did 3 hours anyways. Look at that. I was just having too much fun. I will see you guys all next Monday on an all-new episode this Monday at 9 p.m. On an episode of Low Value Mail. It didn't really seem to be an issue with doing it earlier. Maybe I should do Low Value Mail earlier on... Drop a comment if you think I should change the time of Low Value Mail and make it earlier, because that would make my life a lot easier. I'm not going to lie. It would make my life a hell of a lot easier if I did the show at like 7 o'clock or something Eastern, even 6. I get better guests too. A lot of guests sometimes they're just like, yeah, I'm not coming on at 10 p.m. That's way too late. So let me know what you think about that. It seems like the live viewership was unaffected. Otherwise, I will see you all on Monday night. Support the show, patreon.com/lowvaluemail. Later, scroats.
I'm really a poet, you know it, all my shit heroic. Empathic abilities, yeah, my face be also stoic. Bleep blow up, nigga, that just means I'm working. They see me as a leader, so that's why I'm Captain Kirkin. These tracks from the stars, that much is for certain. You can feel this hit if you up or if you hurtin'. I'm raising my stock, not talking my feet in some Birkin. Number Johnny 5, got a fucking short circuit. Bring the track to life when I spit phenomenally. When I hit, she feel that shit in her abdominals. These rappers make me laugh like comic view, they comical. You know I got a ball out, I hit the track running just like Sonic do. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah. They was trying to get me on my hype shit. Yeah. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah. And they tried to down me up some KO type shit. Yeah. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah. Now we pulling up fresh on some flight shit. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah. They was trying to get me on my hype shit. Yeah. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah. Then they tried to down me up some KO type shit. Yeah. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah. Now we pulling up fresh on some flight